Welcome to the On the Edge podcast with your host, Scott Groves. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's Scott Groves here with the On the Edge podcast with my kind of weird thing, not old buddy, but I've known his younger sister for a long time, went to high school with his sister, and Casey, who's here, Casey Cheshier, the author of the book Treading Water, almost got killed by a whale, which we'll get into that. Lifelong sheriff, has this harrowing story about being stuck at sea. So as my kids wanted to know, did a whale attack you in the army? And I had to tell them, no, not a lot of whales out there trying to kill people in the army. So let's start there with that story about how you almost die about a whale, and then I want to hear everything else.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, I work for the LA County Sheriff's Department Special Enforcement Bureau, which is the SWAT team for Los Angeles.
You guys are like kicking down doors and finding criminals, or?
Yeah, that's pretty much our main job.
Okay, that sounds horrible. I mean, horribly dangerous, but somehow you almost get killed by a whale. So
yeah. So there's a lot to our job. Probably should start there.
Okay, go for it.
Most of law enforcement doesn't do what we do. So there's 6 full-time SWAT teams. One's always on duty, one's always on call. Once you've been on the SWAT team for a number of years, you can then test to go to the paramedic side of the house. So everybody on the medic side of the house has got a lot of experience, been on the team for a long time. We have organic law enforcement paramedics. So you get pulled off your SWAT team, you go to LA County Fire Paramedic School, you go through their paramedic school. Once you're licensed and signed off, you would come back to the unit.
Isn't that like a year? Like you work in trauma hospitals and crazy stuff like that?
Yep. Our full training pipeline is about 2 years.
2 years to become a paramedic?
Because we do some additional stuff. So in addition to paramedic school, you have to go to public safety dive school, which has a direct correlation to this story. From there, you'll go to mountaineering school. You'll go to a summer and a winter package.
Mountaineering?
Yeah.
For rappelling off of buildings and stuff, I'm guessing?
Yeah, in mountains, because LA County goes not only from sea level, but all the way up to over 10,000 feet at the top of Baldy.
And why would you need a sheriff SWAT team on Baldy?
So the paramedics, not only are they on the SWAT team, they staff the rescue helicopter. So when the teams aren't active, we are the paramedics for the rescue helicopter for the LA County Sheriff's Department, which our area of the puzzle is the San Gabriel Mountains.
I guess it makes sense that it would be easier to take somebody who's comfortable being a SWAT officer and make them a paramedic than taking a paramedic and putting a gun in their hand. But I would have never thought of that. Like, oh yeah, you have to take this pool of specialized, I was going to say soldiers, but I'll say law enforcement, and then teach them other skills. Because I'm guessing it's much harder to take a EMT or a paramedic off the street and teach them how to do what you do with a gun and law enforcement and things of that nature. Is that fair?
Absolutely. That's actually a huge part of why our pipeline is the way it is. In fact, paramedicine started in LA County, and there were deputies in the very first paramedic school. I forget what year it was. It was like late 60s, I think, when paramedicine actually started.
So what is the pipeline? And we'll get to the whale, I promise, for people that are intrigued by this. But what's the pipeline from you being like, okay, I'm going to raise my right hand and become a sheriff until you're tactically proficient to be on like entry-level SWAT team? And then like, where does it scale from there with all the specialized training?
Okay, so everybody goes to the academy. From the academy, you'll go to custody. You'll work the jails until your number gets up to go to patrol, which is when your career really starts.
Working in jail sounds miserable.
That's horrible.
It's like 2 years, right? You got to do.
I did jail. 5 years, 11 months, 4 days. Not that I was counting.
Not that it's a rough job, but yeah.
Easy, lazy. I mean, you're just handing out toilet paper and food. It's with sheer moments of madness.
Oh my goodness. So 5 years in the jail before you can go do quote unquote something cool.
Because my luck, I got stuck in a hiring freeze.
Of course.
So all my friends got out in 2 to 3 years, and I got stuck.
So academy, how long is that?
I think it's like 22 weeks.
And then 5 years in the jail, and then you got to go on patrol before.
Then I went to patrol. Yep.
How long were you on patrol before you could like apply for the SWAT team?
I don't even know what the requirement is. I want to say the requirement's 4 years.
So you're like 10 years in before you can become can I say elite sheriff, or will that piss off all the other sheriffs?
I don't know. You say whatever you want.
All right. So then what does the qualifications look like to be on SWAT team? Because just for clarification, 100% of my SWAT team knowledge comes from the TV show SWAT, which I'm going to guess was a little bit sensationalized in Hollywood.
Yeah, a little
but what does that training look like?
So then you'll go, once you're selected, I think when I took the test, 200 or 300 people took the test, and they took 6 or 7, I think.
Oh, so you're a badass.
No.
Oh.
No. Not at all. So yeah, you go to SWAT school, you come out of the SWAT school.
How long is that?
That's 2 weeks for the initial basic SWAT school.
Oh, I was going to say, you learn everything in 2 weeks?
No, it's 2 weeks. And then you'll get attached to your team, and you won't make an entry for about a year. And our SWAT teams are full-time. We don't take reports. We don't answer calls for service. Either you're on an actual call out, which would be a barricade, felony suspect, high risk warrant service, hostage rescue, dignitary protection, things like that.
So the 2-week school, to me, this does not sound like enough. So the on-the-job training must be super intense. Like you said, like you're not going to enter a building for at least a year.
So you're attached to a mentor and you're going to train every day or work every day or both. You're going to go to every single call out that first year, whether it's your team's handle or not, because they're trying to get as much experience in you in a short amount of time.
By the way, your son's sitting in here. What year was that you didn't see your dad for a year? Because he was on a call out just about every day, probably.
That's probably what?
It was 2011.
Six? Yeah. So your wife hated you that year?
Actually, she said it was worse when I was in patrol.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she'll hands down say patrol was worst.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you're doing a year of on-the-job training. Like, is that, because I do have some friends in special forces in the military that do a lot of entries to dangerous building situations. Is that like CQB and stuff like that? Like, can you explain kind of what the on-the-job training looks like?
Yeah. So my team, we tried to shoot 1 day a week, move 1 day a week, breach 1 day a week, and then all the other skill sets, different styles of movement, rural, urban, land nav, tracking, all of that stuff gets compiled. But the 3 big skills we tried to do every week was 1 day at the range, 1 day moving in a small unit in a team down to the most small level, very precise movement, and breaching 1 day a week, which is obviously everything goes around the breach point. So
Blowing up doors?
yeah, we train a lot on it. We don't use it very often. Pretty much we're only hanging a charge on a hostage rescue for the most part.
This all sounds like not enough training to feel comfortable like going into buildings. So like the guys that are entering the building, how long have they generally been on the SWAT team?
Guys don't leave. Guys come.
They don't leave?
Yeah. Once you're there, you guys stay a long time. The basic SWAT school is only enough to get you in the door. Once you do that, then you're going to go to manual, ballistic, and thermal breaching. And then somewhere in around a year to 2 years, you'll go to explosive breaching school. And those are the explosive breachers. Those are the guys that they're hanging all the charges. They're building all the charges.
And does LA Sheriff's Department have all of this stuff in-house, or are you flying across the nation to like different military training or whatnot? Or is LA City big enough that they have everything right there at your disposal?
We host all of those post-approved schools for everybody, but we're also very lucky we can travel anywhere and train all over the place. I have teammates in Malta right now at a extended field care. They're doing medicine in an extended rural environment.
Why?
Because they're learning prolonged field care.
Like even though I grew up in LA, this feels so foreign to me because like all the exposure that a non-law enforcement officer gets is like TV and the movies, right? And if you're like small sheriff in Hodunk, Junction City, Kansas, which is where I was stationed in the Army, shout out to all the bars in Junction City, Kansas, which I frequented a lot when I was in the Army. But like that sheriff probably does patrol and goes home, right? And they don't do any of this other stuff. But is it just the size of LA, the complexity, like the risk, or like why is it that LA has such an advanced kind of like multifaceted SWAT team?
I think you hit it on all different aspects. One, LA is massive. So I want to say it's 1,400 square miles, 700 square miles of Pacific Ocean, 2 islands, not just Catalina, but San Clemente Island where the naval base is. That's all LA County. So we go all the way out to the international boundary line. And a lot of the big cartel stuff is coming up by boat. So that's why we have such a big maritime influence. We also have a big dive.
Wait, the sheriff has a big maritime and dive influence?
Because it's all LA County waters.
And this all falls on the sheriff. It's like obviously right now we're filming this at the beginning of 2025. The border issue is a big conversation. And I know from San Diego to Tijuana, a lot of drug trafficking. I imagine some of that comes across the ocean. But I would have thought like, oh, okay, that's Coast Guard or military or DEA or something like that. Because of the size and complexity of LA, do you guys end up working with all of those other 3-letter agencies?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We work with those guys all the time. So there's different aspects to different units. So we have some very good investigative units that deal with them a lot more on the investigative side. And when it comes to actual tactics, especially in a maritime environment, you're coming to my unit to deal with that.
Yeah, this was not something I was expecting, that the sheriffs run the maritime unit for LA, which is, like you said, hundreds of miles of coastline. Talk about that, because that's the picture on the cover of your book is like, it looks like this Navy SEAL Swift type boat thing with a helicopter above it. Like what kind of, I guess I would say naval or maritime assets does the LA County Sheriff have? This is all so foreign to me. Like I think of sheriff, I think of the dude like patrolling the unincorporated areas like Pasadena, Santa Clarita, whatever. I would not have thought of like rescue helicopters, rescue boats, SWAT team, paramedics, all this stuff. Like this is just so foreign to my understanding of like what police do.
Exactly. And the sheriff's department, for better or worse, doesn't really advertise this stuff. It's not public knowledge. Nobody even realizes, even people that live in LA don't realize.
Yeah, I might have signed up to be a sheriff if they, instead of go to the army, if I knew they do all this cool stuff.
Yeah. So on the cover, you have, that's Ocean Rescue 2, which is our largest boat, 58 feet, I think. And then obviously the Super Puma helicopter that we fly, slightly bigger than a Blackhawk. We had 3 of those. One did get crashed and has been replaced. So everybody lived.
Everybody made it out. Okay. I was like, man, let's not go to another sad story.
No, it's in the book.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, my friends, my crew were on the aircraft. I took the shift off to go see my sister Jenna for her birthday. And we get to Denver where my sister lives, and phone started ringing and answered the phone. It was one of the worst calls ever. Hey, Air 5's down. We can't get a hold of him.
Oh, how many people are on that bird?
So 5, 2 pilots, 3 crew in the back, 1 crew chief, 2 medics. All the crew chiefs are medics also, but they're the senior guys and the team leaders who are the crew chiefs, and they rotate through.
So you mentioned there's like 14 teams, you said?
6 teams of
16.
6 teams of 8 on the SWAT side. 3 medic crews, fully staffed would be 6 per team plus a sergeant per team. So 18 deputies and 3 sergeants. We are nowhere near that. We're down to 10 deputies and 1 sergeant.
That doesn't seem like enough.
No, we're spread really thin.
And so like you're expected, like you personally, because you've gone through this training, you've been in the pipeline. How long have you been in SWAT?
Since 2011.
11. So 13 years. So you're expected to be able to dive, boat, helicopter rescue from the mountains, break into a bank if there's a hostage situation. You have to do all this stuff.
Yep.
Those all seem like individual jobs on their own.
Yeah, there's a lot of facets.
Prior to the accident, how beat up is your body from the training and all of this stuff?
As I'm getting older, I'm starting to feel some aches and pains.
Yeah.
Not counting the accident.
Yeah, I do jiu-jitsu at 45 with a bunch of like 21-year-olds, and they're like, come on, man, let's wrestle. And I'm like, no, like I'm not, my job is not to get highlighted reel by you. My back hurts, and I sit at a desk. I haven't been breaking open buildings for 20 years. So can you talk a little bit more about the ocean side of things? Are you guys doing like ocean rescue alongside the Coast Guard, or what is like the ocean detail?
Yes, so we work hand in hand with Sector LA. That's U.S. Coast Guard's sector for the area from Ventura to San Diego. We deal with them all the time. They don't actually have aircraft in LA County because we have aircraft. So their aircraft are stationed in Ventura. If something happens in LA County, not only our aircraft will spin, but we'll have LA County Fire if necessary. If it's a law enforcement mission, it's ours.
And what would those look like? What's like a maritime law enforcement issue that the sheriff's unit might be called in on?
You name it. Planes crashing, boats sinking, dive accidents. Once it's off of the rescue phase where someone's not going to be survivable, you can't have a 2-hour breath hold underwater. It's ours. We're going to take it. We're going to do the recovery because it is a crime scene. So ultimately, we're going to go down. We're going to video everything. We're going to recover the body, deal with the coroner, write all the reports, do all of that.
Oh,
everything from the Conception boat fire, the dive boat that was in Santa Barbara waters that burned and killed 34 people, I believe.
Yeah.
My crew, I wasn't on again that day, but they helicast in and jumped out of the aircraft and started diving it and marking it that morning after the boat sank. So that's under the mutual aid side where we help out the other agencies around us.
All right. So let's get to the day that you were on the boat, unfortunately.
Yeah. So like I said, we host all these schools from all these different specialties. 6 weeks is public safety dive school. We host it. To my knowledge, it's the only post-certified dive school in the country.
For law enforcement.
Or law enforcement. Yeah, so public safety dive is what it's called, dive school.
And I've been all the way up to like the master diver and dry suit diver just because I fell in love with scuba diving for about 5 years when I was in my 20s. What does it look like to go like from your PADI 60-foot dive, I'm going to go down and look at some kelp and fish, to like advanced, sadly, body recovery and stuff like that? What type of training are you guys doing on the dive side?
So that scratches the surface. Those 6 weeks, all you're going to do for the entire 6 weeks is dive every day, multiple dives a day, and very technical diving. That's just to get the start. We do have regular SWAT guys who haven't been to paramedic school or EMT school even. They are part of our dive cadre. That's how I came through the pipeline a little. Your schools don't necessarily always fall in order.
Right.
So I went to dive school, and then I went to some maritime schools, captain school, things like that while I was still on the SWAT side.
Wait, so this is so crazy to me that you like carry a gun, can break down a door. You are certified as a captain on this 58-foot boat that looks like something straight out of the movies, jumping out of helicopters, went to dive school. Like, is there any time for actual like policing?
Like I said, we do. This just is our job. I'm kind of removed from the big sheriff's department to handle these very unique missions.
Oh, this is wild. Okay, so you have this dive school. Where's it at? Catalina?
All over.
All over.
Yeah, they'll dive out here, Colorado River. We've been going every year since the bad boat crash down at Topak when those two boats went head to head.
Yeah.
We went out, dove it, helped recover some of those bodies. And ever since then, we dive the Colorado River as part of this dive school because that was a pretty technical dive. The current's ripping. So yeah, you go 6 weeks. The last week after that, the 7th week, we did what they call it was a public safety dive seminar. So we would debrief all these big incidents from all over. It was in the middle of it when I had my accident. If you back up a little bit, just to put things in time context for everybody, the shooting in Las Vegas was at the Route 91 concert.
Yeah.
I believe it was Route 91.
Yeah, out of Mandalay Bay, unfortunately.
Yeah. That was Sunday. My unit we heard when it started going, we thought, oh, this is a terrorist attack in the middle of Vegas, like everybody's always heard is a huge threat.
Yeah.
Get your stuff together, start heading towards Vegas until they sort this out. Well, Vegas Metro did a phenomenal job resolving that. So we got shut down pretty quick. And it was about midnight on Sunday night for Monday morning when we heard there's no need, stay in LA. Well, I knew I was going to the island for 3 days to do this dive seminar. Me and my partner, Jim, were the ones kind of running it. We get out there totally staying on the island the entire time. We're not going back and forth. Get on the island. One of the guys gets a phone call. Hey, you got to be in court. You have an old murder trial. The judge wants you in court tomorrow. So kind of the way things go, we'll start checking the sea state, doing all this stuff. Hey, dude, I'll run you back first thing in the morning, get you in court in time. Sea state looked really good. So hop on board one of the other guys who's actually technically my uncle. My mom is 20 years older than her youngest sister. So You go to school with your aunt. That makes your buddy who marries your aunt, Uncle Kevin, right? So Kevin's like, hey, dude, I'm going back too then. I'm going to jump on board. And they had a vacation plan. So Kevin jumps on board. We run back, drop them off.
Run back from where to where, by the way?
Catalina to the port of LA, where we keep all our boats. 26
miles across the sea. I remember the song.
Commercials. Yeah.
How fast can this boat make it back and forth from like Catalina to LA?
So I was on a little smaller rib. So the rib I was on, which is a rigid hull inflatable boat now they have twin 450 horsepower Mercury racing outboards on them. At the time, they were only 300.
Oh,
yeah. So you're looking at 600 horsepower and outboards on the back.
On a boat that weighs as much as a canoe.
Yeah. So a full SWAT team plus a medic crew, coxswain and a deckhand, you'll be up around 60 miles an hour.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you're Catalina, LA in under 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just 3 of us. And we're scooting back. Beautiful morning. Drop them off. Check in with everybody. Checked in with my partner, Jim, out at the island. Said, hey, guys are on land. I'm good here. Do we need anything? Because I don't want to do this drive again. And he's like, nope, you're good. Everybody's wrapping up eating breakfast. Just come on back and be ready to run your dive scenario. Because one of the scenarios I was running was up first that morning. So stopped in, topped the tank off with gas at the fuel dock. Got a cup of coffee from the guys there and started cruising back out. I was probably like 20 miles out to sea. Maybe 6.
And this is like sunny, beautiful California. This is not like the Bering Strait stormwater. Like you're cruising in Oakley's in a t-shirt or maybe a windbreaker or something. It's like, it's a nice day.
So I was ready to get right back in the water for this diving stuff. So yeah, I was wearing flip-flops, board shorts, like a Under Armour type t-shirt and a fleece because it was October. So it was October 4th, 2017. Still a little cool in the morning. I think the water temperature was in the low 60s. It was cool as fall. Just drink a cup of coffee, bebopping, and sheet of glass. We were laughing on the drive in that we're getting paid to do this. It's one of those mornings that the ocean's perfect. It was beautiful. And so now I'm driving back out by myself, and all of a sudden the bow came up a little bit and then came crashing to a halt. I got thrown into the center console. The boat pitched and yawed, and then I ended up getting thrown overboard. And then as I got thrown over the rail, I remember looking down, and it looked like I was looking down at the top of a school bus. and it was the whale just under the water that I just plowed into and hit the water.
The boat hit a freaking whale.
Yeah. Couldn't see it, just below the surface. Just like ran the thing aground.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was much bigger than the boat. So hit the water, the little inflatable life vest, poof, to the surface I go.
Good thing you had that on, right? Or you're probably dead.
I saw it for about 30 seconds because now I'm holding a crushed cup of coffee.
Held on to your coffee like a champ.
Oh, yeah. Crushed up styrofoam cup. And then I heard the motors and I turned around and the boat was coming right back around at full power. Drives are forced hard over. And luckily I was only...
These things don't have like a kill switch if the if the driver gets...
I broke it off.
Oh.
That's when I hit the center console. So Murphy's Law, right? Tried to get below it. Took the life preserver off. Tried to scratch and get as fast and as deep as I could. And ended up running over my feet and my lower legs.
The boat, like the propellers ran over your feet.
Yep. So it felt like I got hit with a baseball bat.
Yeah, to say the least.
Honestly, that's the only way I could describe it. Didn't feel like I got cut with a knife or anything like that. It felt like I got hit with a baseball bat. There's so much, come to find out, there's so much kinetic energy in the props because they're sprinting so fast. They shatter bones. So I took one prop strike mid-shin through my tibula fibula on my right leg, one through my right ankle, and then from the top of my right foot all the way down through where my fifth toe was. My right leg.
And it didn't just shear your leg off? That's kind of what's most fascinating to me.
It was close. 3 really bad prop strikes to my right leg. The left foot, yeah. So I get to the surface. The first thing I want to pull up was my right leg. It looks like a J because the bones are kind of broken and shoots blood a couple feet in the air because I cut the artery.
Oh, so just because you're alive, we can take some comic relief out of this. Is this like in the movies, like with Austin Powers, where the bulldozer's coming at him or the whatever, and he's like, he's yelling at, like, could you see the boat coming? Was it, I mean, I'm sure it felt like a lifetime, but is it like almost instantaneous, or did the boat do like a big spiral circle and then you're in bad shape for a couple
pictures for you? Because the Coast Guard showed up and they took a picture of it. So my boat's going probably 60 plus miles an hour in a very tight circle. Maybe it's a 10-meter rib that I was on, so 33 feet. It's probably a 60-foot diameter circle as it just came right back around on top of me.
So you got like a second and you realize you're about to get drilled by a boat.
Yep. Just unclipped the little clip on the life preserver and tried to get as low as I could. And never saw the life preserver again.
Yeah. Not low enough, by the way.
Yeah. Missed it by a piggy.
Shit. Okay. So now you're 20 miles out to sea. Can you see land, by the way?
Yeah, I can see the island. The island was probably 6 to 8 miles. It was closer than the mainland.
Okay.
But yeah, by now, the few clouds that were gone, they're burning off. It was a beautiful day. Bright sun.
Gorgeous day just to die out in the middle of the ocean.
Nobody else around. Like Wednesday morning.
Yeah. No boat traffic, no luxury sail. Oh my gosh. All right. So you lift your foot above the ocean and a lot of blood.
Yeah. On the right leg, pulled my left one up, degloved all the toes. Not all of them, but the fourth and fifth toe and the whole ball of my foot was just kind of degloved.
Wait, you say degloved. That sounds like a fancy way to say it was hanging on by some
by skin. Yeah.
Oh. How do you, I mean, all joking aside, I mean, you obviously have training in this area. You've done body retrieval rescue. I'm sure you've seen some horrific stuff. How do you not just go into shock, pass out, drown, die?
I don't know. Just work the problem.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like what I would react to. So you're bleeding in the middle of the ocean in board shorts and a Under Armour.
In a fleece, yeah. And then the one other injury that we didn't talk about, I cut my left heel off. So the heel pad. The calcaneus was there. It looked like Skeletor's heel sticking out.
Oh, so fuck, man.
Yeah. Pretty shitty.
Okay. So like, because you had already been through paramedic school at this point, right?
I'd been a medic for
thank God. Because if you had not, probably dead. And what is the triage that goes through your brain at this point?
So kind of funny or not funny.
I mean, funny because you're alive. Yeah. Not funny if I was talking to your son and you're gone.
So the fleece, it was acting like a sponge trying to drown me. I dumped it, got rid of it, took my shirt off. And like the school that those guys are going to, medicine and austere environment, like I've been to some prolonged field care stuff and some of the mountaineering things kind of come into play. But took my shirt off, tied like you tie your shoelaces around trying to shut the blood off, and it didn't do anything. So
can't make a tourniquet hard enough. And then you're simultaneously trying to tie a tourniquet while treading water.
Treading water, yep. So.
You mean you never trained for that?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I remember thinking in the water, to have tourniquets, it's my job to be the medic for the team. I have tourniquets on my plate carrier. I have tourniquets on my med bag. I have tourniquets in my uniform.
I had 2 in my truck.
Yeah. All the stuff is sitting on the boat. The only thing that came out of the boat was my dumbass. So.
Like, not to get you in trouble or anything, but isn't there some type of protocol of like 3 people have to be on the boat at all times just in case for something like this?
No, it actually came up. They actually had, a couple people asked my wife after everything was said and done when I was in the hospital. And she goes, no, that nothing would have changed. In my opinion, we have kids crash cars. The brand new deputies, they crash cars. We give them another car. Shit just happens.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have changed anything if there were more people on it.
Yeah, just more problems.
More people would have got tore up.
Yeah. Over a freaking whale.
Yeah.
Okay, so your leg is bleeding.
All my gear stayed in the boat. Everything stayed in the hold. Locked down. It was all good. Just me in the water now. And
is the boat still out there just doing laps?
Stop. Right.
Oh my God. How insulting.
Oh yeah, the whole time. So I remember thinking, there's a saying in rope school, one of our rope schools, that webbing is rope. You can rappel off webbing. You can do, everything's like webbing. So I'm like, well, my shirt's basically webbing. I can roll my shirt and try to get some kind of mechanical advantage to get the blood shut off. So I untied my shirt and I rolled it basically like you roll your shirt, like lengthwise, like this.
Okay.
Put my leg behind it, and I ran the tail of it through the sleeves. So there's my pulley. And I just ratcheted it down as tight as I could and then tied it off. And that stopped it. That hurt worse than anything because all the shattered bones are now grinding on each other as I'm trying to ratchet this thing down.
Instead of being lubed with blood, now you've just got a limp leg.
Yeah, because the
Did you immediately start thinking of Jaws?
It can't. Later, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. By the time I got the bleeding under control, because I knew I was on the clock, I knew the amount of blood loss I was having was serious. Got the bleeding locked down, and by now the current had carried me, I'd probably say like 100, 150 yards away from the boat. I was like, all right.
The boat's not drifting with you, right?
No.
It's still under power making a circle.
Yep.
Fuck!
Yeah. So swam back towards the boat, got back to where it was at, and started treading water, trying to rest again. Yeah. Treading water, resting. We'd had a couple of rescues that summer even. We find the boats before we find the people. You're not looking for a body, you're looking for a head. Because people are going to be vertical in the water column. So it's easier to find a boat than it is a person. So treaded water, rest, got 50, 75 yards away, swam back. It's that started that never-ending conveyor belt.
Yeah, because if you drift too far away from the boat, they're never finding you, right?
No. I stay with the boat. That was the whole thing. Stay with the boat, stay with the boat.
And did you ever think about, I might be able to swim 6 miles to shore?
The thought, do I try it? And then it went back to no, because if I have an issue, they're going to find the boat before they find me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I remember seeing a buoy ball off a lobster trap drifting by. That was a few hundred yards away. And thinking I can go hang on that and rest, not have to work as hard. But I knew there was no way I could get it back to the boat, especially if it was hooked up to tackle. There's no way. So I had to make a decision, let that go. That one was hard. Every part of my soul told me to go hang on that buoy ball and rest, and having to watch it just keep going because I knew to stay with the boat.
So wait, I'm not familiar with lobster traps or buoy balls. Like, this is somebody had set a lobster trap in the middle of the ocean. They just circle back around for it a couple times.
There's so much debris in the ocean. It was just a ball, a marker ball or marker buoy that they use for lobster traps, and it was just a drift. So no different than a buoy you would see at Las Vegas Marina over at Lake Mead.
Yeah.
It's just
and what does that decision look like when you're looking at that and you're like, oh, that might be my lifeline to stay afloat? Yep. Competing interest, stay close to the boat so they can rescue me. Was that like a minute-long deliberation?
Oh, that was longer than that because things adrift aren't moving real fast. So I got to think about that one for a while. Yeah, but ultimately it was just let it go, stay with the boat, stick to the plan, tread water and rest as best you can, try to come back to the boat. So that never-ending conveyor belt. I remember there was the thought of some big white guppy's going to come take a bite of me. Yeah.
I'm thinking of that buoy like drifting away, kind of like that scene in Castaway with Tom Cruise where Wilson, his little volleyball, just drifts away. Were you just crying for the buoy? Buoy?
No, but that movie did pop in my head because I knew that if I didn't make it, I would be listed as missing at sea until I was declared dead. There wouldn't be any closure. And he'd be over there searching all the islands, expecting me to be playing with Wilson, my volleyball on the beach somewhere.
Yeah.
Not having any closure for my family would have ruined all of them. So that actually got me really pissed, really mad. And that's more angry than any fight, any shooting, anything I'd ever been involved with. That just got me. I can't tell you how angry that made me. And it just kept pushing me.
Yeah, because I'm thinking if they find your boat just doing laps and you're gone, they're never going to know what happened, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to know if you jumped off and committed suicide. They're not going to know if you hit a whale, which probably nobody would believe if you weren't still alive. They're not going to know. I mean, a million scenarios could present themselves where your family would have never had closure.
Well, they didn't believe me that I hit the whale to begin with until the thing showed up dead a couple weeks later with prop marks all over it.
They thought you were spinning like a good tail, right? Like you crashed the boat. And you're like, I promise it was the whale.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. All right. So the buoy's floating by, and then what?
I don't know how long I'd been in the water because I wasn't even wearing a watch. Everything was on my dive gear.
Of course. Why not?
Because I got to go dive again.
How nice would it have been if you happened to just be in your dive gear or a wetsuit? Like, I know I'm gonna have to jump back in the ocean the second I get off this boat. How many times were you swimming out there being think, fuck, why didn't I just put on a wetsuit? Like, then I'd be like neutrally buoyant. I could just be out here in a back float position. How pissed off were you at yourself?
I was mad at everything. Rage. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Against nothing. But it was fuel and it pushed me.
How many times do you think you drifted away and swam back to the boat?
Oh, I don't even know. I couldn't even count.
Take a guess.
I have more than I could count. More than 20. It was never ending. It would tread water. I start getting away from it. Come back. Try to rest. Try to take a break. Swim back.
How pissed were you that you topped off the fuel tanks? You're like, please just spring a leak or something.
I think the other guys were more pissed because they had to actually board it and shut it down.
So how long are you out there? Like, what's going on back at home base that ends up fueling the rescue? Like, what does this whole time frame look like? Are you out there for 15 minutes, 15 hours?
So total time in the water, that's going to be about 2 hours, give or take. I don't know exactly, but that's a good window, give or take a smidge.
That's a lot of time to reflect on the good things you did in your life, the bad things you did in your life. Like, are you just in survival mode? Or are you reflecting it all like, well, I'm going to die out here. I guess it's my time to make peace with God. I guess
no.
I feel really horrible about that $5 I stole in junior high. Like, what is the mindset when you're out there for 2 hours just fighting for survival?
Two things went through my head nonstop. One, I was just pissed and to keep pushing. That was the ultimate driving factor. The other one that sticks in my head is every time my mind would start to wander, like thinking about sharks, doing any of the what if stuff.
And by the way, for people that don't know, every couple of years out at Catalina Island, which you're like 6 miles from, some diver gets whacked by a great white because between the Channel Islands, Catalina, San Diego, that's like
it's a juvenile breeding ground.
Yeah. That's great white, like alley, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of white sharks. If the water's warm, we'll get other sharks out of Mexico coming up if it's like an El Nino year. But there's a lot of whites, a lot of blues, a lot of makos.
Yeah, I hear they can smell blood like a mile away. So
I've heard that too.
Hopefully apparently there was none within a mile or you'd be fish food.
Yeah. So every time my mind would start to wander like that, my college baseball coach came to mind.
Really?
Yeah. A side tangent. I was a freshman playing at Cal State Northridge for Mike Batesel, and I'll never forget it. I got called out on a bad call, strike 3 call. Came in, I was acting like a punk 18-year-old kid and bitching about, oh, that umpire blew that call. And he's like, no, you didn't, because you took that 1-1 fastball for strike 2. You gave that away, not him. He's like, you always got to focus on what you can control, nobody else. And he beat that into us all the time, especially when it came to hitting. And he was one of the best hitting coaches I've ever been around. Focus on what you can control. And that's what was going through my head in the water 20-something years later. Just focus on what you can control. I can control how hard my swimming, my resting. Just focus on what you can control. Can I control, is my bleeding stopped? Yes. All right. Yeah. The tourniquet's locked down. It's holding. Sometimes I had to retighten it because I start bleeding again.
How do you know if you're bleeding in salt water?
Pull my leg back out of the water and see what was going on with it.
Whoa.
Before I had the bleeding shut off, I was turning the water like burgundy red from my thighs down when I was in the water. So I lost quite a bit of blood. They gave me several units once I finally got to the hospital. So yeah, I lost quite a bit of blood.
And it's one thing if you like lose blood and then you're immediately in like trauma care. But if you lose blood and then have to do physical activity like swim, obviously your heart rate's going up, your heart's pumping more. You're just like exacerbating the problem of the laceration, right?
Yeah. Now on top of it, I'm fighting hypothermia because the water's cold. When you're hypothermic, it affects the clotting cascade. Hypothermia is really bad for trauma. So, and I know I'm getting cold. So I was actually I'll get to the hospital in a sec. But basically, I've been in the water about 2 hours. And I remember seeing a white dot on the horizon. It was a yacht coming towards the island, and it's getting closer. It's getting closer, and as this thing's slowly getting closer, it eventually turns and starts coming towards the boat. Well, they saw my boat spinning around in a circle.
Doing loop-de-loops.
Yep. They come over. They actually split me, the Raptors, the type of rib I was on. They split me and the Raptors, so I can see the people on deck. There's 2 guys and 2 girls on deck looking, and it's a first world yacht, like out of Newport. Like, this isn't a boat. This is a yacht. And they're on their way to Catalina for Buccaneer Days. So they're going over for the big party, and they stumble onto my boat that's out of control. And it took them a little bit to find me, to see me, because I was actually behind them. Couldn't really yell. I was pretty weak. I was trying to splash. Finally, one of the ladies sees me. The boat comes over. The swim platform is about as high as your table out of the water. Pretty close. So the 2 elderly gentlemen couldn't pull me up onto the swim platform, so they flipped the ladder down. I got to climb up the ladder on my broken legs, kind of flopped down. I remember the lady kind of screaming a little bit. I remember telling them, I need you to go on channel 16, declare an emergency, and ask for Air 5, which is the call sign of our aircraft. I knew that they were going to be coming pretty much on the exact same heading I took from the port of LA to where our dive scenarios were. Having done it a bunch of times on the aircraft, my whole plan was stay with the boat. Hopefully the aircraft sees me going by. Luckily for me, the yacht found me first. So he's like, I already went over channel 16 and said there's a vessel in distress. And he goes, and Air 5 said they're airborne and heading this way. And I was, oh, perfect. So
how much shit do you get for getting rescued by your own team?
Not much. The dudes are not much.
Dude, I would razz you until the end of your life. Like, fuck. What is your rank, by the way?
I'm a deputy.
Deputy, yeah. Had to save Deputy Cheshier. So what's it like? Well, first of all, what's the emotional highs and lows of like the boat's coming? Hopefully the boat sees me. Oh, the boat sees my boat, but they're looking the wrong way. Turn around, bitch.
Pretty much.
No offense to the lady who did see you and saved your life. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
No,
but,
you're right.
Like, what is the emotional drama or like, I mean, you're already out of gas. Like you said, you're hypothermic. You're down a bunch of units of blood. And then you're like, oh my God, this boat might pass me by. They're looking the wrong way.
Yeah. There was a bunch of different emotions.
Are you crying, by the way?
No, not yet. I didn't start really crying until I saw the family once I got out of surgery. That was probably it. Once I saw Les at the hospital. Les is my wife, Leslie.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So
are you like screaming in the ocean? Are you cursing? Or
no.
Did you really just have this idea of like control the controllables?
Oh, I'm like, oh, fuck. Like when I first got hit and I looked at my leg, I knew it was bad. I don't know why I did it. That was all I yelled it. I'm like, fuck.
I yell when I'm trying to use a screwdriver. So I can only
And then
imagine.
It was like, hold on, I know I'm on the clock. I got to fix this problem right now. I only have minutes to fix this. So it was hurry up and figure this out. Yeah. And once the bleeding was stopped, I knew I had a little bit of time, a little bit of wiggle room. I was still bad, but it was sort this out, get this bleed locked down, and then we'll figure out how to get back on.
When the 2 old guys couldn't pull you up on the boat, did you say, I'm going to die on the back of this boat?
No, just get me out of the water. I just wanted out of the water. And I love being, I still to this day, that was one of the, during my recovery, that was probably one of the biggest things I missed was being in the water, taking the kids water skiing, taking the kids surfing.
Do you think being in, I don't know what the physiology of this is, but do you think being in salt water saved you in some way? Does that either help the wound or stop the bleeding or anything like that? Or it doesn't really matter?
No. So I'll answer that question in a second because it'll come into play. So Air 5 comes in, they see it's our boat. So now they're talking on a different radio frequency, trying to figure out which of our personnel were on that boat. Another boat had been out. They're like, no, we're at the island. They're like, well, we have one of our boats with nobody on it. And they're hovering, and I can see it. I know I'm getting bad. Like, I'm starting to get real lethargic. I told the captain, hey, go over 16 again. Tell them it's Casey Cheshier, and I'm bad, and to come in and get me out of here. As that's going on, a U.S. Coast Guard helo came overhead. It happened to be on I've been told several different things. I'm told it was on mechanic flight. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm like, I don't need the Coast Guard. I need my guys. Most Coast Guard aircraft are only EMTs. I needed paramedicine. I needed advanced life support. I knew I was getting really down the rabbit hole of the whole shock.
Did the boat that found you, did they have any medical supplies or?
They put a blanket on me. I asked for a blanket. I was worried about the hypothermia stuff. So they covered me in a blanket.
They didn't have any tourniquets or stop the bleed stuff or anything?
No.
Dude, it's always shocking to me, people that either drive a lot for a job or like we're back and forth to LA every other week, or people that have boats or any of that stuff that don't have just like basic and or advanced medical training. I'm paying $500 to go to some 2-day, like taught by an old special forces guy, like stop the bleed, all the basics. Like, can you keep this person alive for 20 minutes till the sheriffs get there? And I'm just shocked how few people have any type of like basic medical or survival training. I mean, I think the prepper community really did themselves a disservice when that prepper crazy show was on National Geographic and everybody thinks the zombie apocalypse is coming. But it's like, it's so likely that during your lifetime, you're going to run across something, a boating accident, a car accident, somebody falls and is bleeding out. I mean, it just is beyond me why there's not more people that get some medical training.
How many people don't even understand what MAR is? If you can stop the massive hemorrhage, open an airway, and are their respirations okay? You've solved a lot of problems. The massive bleed alone, like if someone's hemorrhaging and you can stop the bleeding, they got a pretty good chance of survival. Hello.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of stopping the bleed. That's the biggest thing.
Oh, so I got to ask, because at this point you've had a tourniquet on for 2 hours. How is your leg still intact? I mean, just again, talking to military buddies, it's like, if you don't let the tourniquet off, let the flesh get some blood.
No, I mean, once the tourniquet's on, it stays on.
Okay.
No loosening tourniquets. You're going to blow a clot. Every time you blow a clot, your ability to form a new clot's severely diminished. You can wear, the book says 2 hours. You can wear it a lot longer. I've heard some of the military units, guys have worn it much, much longer than that, and they've saved the limbs. Once the tourniquet's on, leave it on.
Okay. This is wild, man.
Yeah.
All right. So you're how long are you on the boat before like real medical triage helps gets there?
So Kamal, who's my friend, he was my team leader at the time. He was crew chief that day and did a phenomenal job. The captain of the boat butchered my last name, but got enough of it right where he knew it was me. He told the Coast Guard, hey, come off station. We're sliding in. This is one of our guys. Kamal and I worked. He was my sergeant in patrol. We worked on sister teams. We were on different teams, but we always backed up to each other. On the SWAT side, we went to paramedic school together, and then he was my team leader on my medic crew. So we've been together for years and years. So Kamal comes in, and I'm really lethargic. I remember like everything kind of, when he was in his hover, I remember touching, everything kind of went gray. I remember touching my eyes. I'm like, I can't see right. Like, this is bad. Like, everything's just like a bright gray. Like,
is that because you had so much blood loss?
Yeah. I was really in the super shocky. Like, I was really bad.
Super shocky. Technical term, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The different levels of shock. I was in the worst one. Like, I was really bad. And then I remember feeling the spray of the rotor. Like, the thing, that helicopter generates a ton of downwash. I felt the spray, and then I felt Mark land on top of me, who's one of the other medics. And I didn't know who the medic was at the time, but I remember feeling my way up his harness, got to his ear and tried to yell in his ear, hey, don't come off the hook. I know I'm bad. Just get me in the aircraft. And he yelled back, absolutely not. I got to get real tourniquets on you. And again, like we were talking about, he knew he needed to save every drop of blood he could, because I had nothing on my left leg. So I don't really remember.
Did your left leg get messed up too?
Yeah. So I cut the toes and off my left foot and my left
heel.
Wait,
your toes off your left foot are gone?
They reattached them all. I ended up losing some.
Yeah. You said that so nonchalantly, like I just lost a few toes. Those are kind of important for balance and stuff.
That was a little one.
Okay. Unnecessary, I guess.
Yeah. I don't really remember anything after that. Everything just kind of goes black. The next thing I remember, Jim Moss, my partner from the island. So at the island, they knew I was overdue. They're calling. They're trying to get me on the radio. They haven't hit the big red panic button, but they know something's wrong. So they're doing the what if, like, oh, maybe he went to the the USC hyperbaric chambers there. We briefed them every day on our dive profiles so they knew what we were doing. If somebody had an underwater emergency, what they were going to have to do if they had to repress somebody in the chamber. So they're doing, maybe he went into town and got breakfast. He missed breakfast. I like to eat. So
yeah,
they're doing all of that kind of working the problem. No, they call the chamber. No, he hasn't been here. So they're doing it. They're working it backwards from their end. And then they heard the radio for traffic from the boat that, hey, there's a vessel in distress. They all knew it was me. So they jumped on board. Jim, Mike, a PJ, one of the tier 1 PJs from the 2-4 was out for this training. And a couple of our guys jumped on, actually OR2, that one that's on the cover, and just started mashing out. So they got there in the middle of all of this. I don't realize it. Jim dove in the water, swam over. So Mark tells me he's not coming off the hook, and I don't remember anything. The next thing I remember is Jim slapping the shit out of me. I'm like, motherfucker, you hit me again, I'm gonna hit you back. Like,
no, you're not. You have no energy for that.
Oh no, there was no way. But that's what popped in my head. And I love Jim. Like, he's been one of the best mentors of my life, not just my career. Jim's slapping the shit out of me. And I'm like, dude, motherfucker, that hurts.
And is this like just old school out of the movies, or just trying to keep you conscious?
Yeah, they're trying to keep me awake. Because I was going in and out. Like, I don't really remember anything.
If you go unconscious, what is the downside of going unconscious in a trauma situation? Does your body just...
They're to keep me with it. They're trying to keep me in the game. They don't want me just going to sleep and dying. They're trying to keep me going. Funny part of this, I actually think it's funny. Most people might not. But so I go back out again. The next thing I remember is when the aircraft came in to hoist Mark down on top of me, the rotor wash blew all of their furniture off this yacht. Like all their pillows, all everything. So now we have a boat there. So they're going to transfer me back to one of our boats so we don't destroy this gajillion-dollar yacht. So they have me on a backboard and they're sliding me from the back of the yacht to our boat. And I come to, and I think they're burying me at sea and putting me back in the water. So now I'm trying to fight my way off of this backboard.
You're like, I'm still alive.
Exactly. Don't do it. Don't do it. One of those. Yeah. Things you can't make up. I don't remember anything after that. Next thing I know, I'm getting hoisted up in the aircraft. I remember making eye contact with Kamal, and then I don't remember anything. And he said I kind of looked at him and then just went out again.
So I'm thinking of your partners, your friends. These are people you've served with for a long time. It's one thing if you show up to a trauma situation and it's a stranger and you're just kind of methodically working the problem, and this is what it is. And obviously you want to save everybody, but there's no like emotional connection per se to these people. You don't know whether they're a father or whatever. Have you talked to them at all about what's the difference when they show up and it's like their boy that's on the verge?
Oh, we've talked about it a lot. I've had other guys get torn up and being the medic to help them. Like, it's obviously, it's for all the marbles, and you're immediately invested because it's your friend.
Yeah, because like these guys know your family, they know your dad, like they know. I mean, I imagine it's very similar to being in the military. They know everything about you, right? Yep.
Families are friends with other families. Kids are friends with their kids. Yeah, I mean, it comes in all the way through this. That's going on. Yeah, so they get me on the helicopter. They can't get a blood pressure on me. I had no readable blood pressure initially.
That's bad.
Yeah, very bad. It's kind of a little important thing. Usually you like to have a blood pressure that's readable.
Is that because of the hypothermia or because you've lost so much blood or just
everything together? All of it is one big shit sandwich that's all piled in together, leaving me in the state that I was in. Don't really remember much for a second. And then I remember Mark yelling at the other medic to put another tourniquet on. And like now they're talking about the rubber tourniquets to get an IV.
How can you get an IV? You have no blood pressure. There's no veins.
They're trying. So I remember coming to, Mark yelled in my ear something like Mark's yelling at me, he's yelling at her. Everybody's kind of, it's hard to hear in the aircraft anyway. So you have to physically yell unless you're on the ICS. But for me, who not being on a headset, yeah, the only time I'm hearing is when he's yelling at me. Just get the line. I'm like, oh, great. Here comes an IO. This is going to be awesome. For those that don't know, an IO is an IV into your bone. We drill into your bone marrow and we give you an IV straight to your bone marrow.
Because if your blood pressure is 0, they can't even run an IV to like your jugular.
My blood pressure wasn't 0, but it was close. So the first readable one, once they got the IV, was like 70/20. It was super low. Yeah. Oh. So thank God they got the line. I didn't have to get a drill to my shin bone.
You mentioned that on the Coast Guard, helicopter who has a totally different mission. Those guys are EMTs, which is great for initial trauma care, but not advanced paramedics. Had you accidentally ended up on the Coast Guard helicopter instead of with your guys,
it could have potentially killed me.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. Potentially not being able to get IV access and get my blood pressure up. Once they got my blood pressure up, I didn't lose consciousness anymore. I was good.
How much pain are you in? Or are you in so much shock that you can't really feel it?
I was just happy to be alive at that point. It hurt. Everything hurt.
I mean, muscles got to hurt. Swimming for 2 hours, not so easy. Treading water for 2 hours, not so, like everything in your body has, like your eyebrows have to hurt.
My ribs and back hurt from hitting the center console when I was going over. Everything was hurt, but my feet hurt a lot.
Well, the good news is one of them's not there anymore. So
it's just pieces of it are missing.
Oh, man. And how quickly can those helicopters get from you're effectively to Catalina Island to like a tier 1 trauma center, which I'm guessing is USC?
They took me to Harbor UCLA.
That
was the closest to level 1 trauma. So, and it was actually the closest trauma center.
Can you explain to people that level 1 trauma center? Because I've read a lot of stuff about this, about gun violence and stuff like that. Like if you can stop the bleed and get to a trauma center within 20 minutes or something, like gunshot wounds, ironically, not completely fatal unless you hit
Most people don't die.
Most people don't die from a gunshot wound, but it's that high level, it's called tier 1 trauma 1.
In LA County, there's a level 1, there's level 2 traumas. So level 1 just means they have a full-time neurosurgeon always there. Level 2 does not. They have to call one in. That's ultimately getting down to the nuts and bolts of it. That's the big differentiating factor. We have a lot of trauma centers. We have a lot of very skilled trauma centers in LA. We're very fortunate in that regard. They got me to Harbor UCLA.
Because if you're out in like northern Idaho and you're an hour and a half, 2 hours from a tier 1 or tier 2 trauma center,
any trauma center,
you probably die.
Yeah.
There's like 94 opportunities for you to die during this story. Okay, we'll get to like why God continued to put you on this earth in a little while. But so what are they doing in the plane? Is it just IV and blood pressure, or are they trying to...
So the big one was getting my blood pressure up, keeping me conscious, getting my core vitals into a stable range. They're trying to warm me up. They're wrapping me up. They're repackaging my feet. They're splinting stuff. They're trying to make me a little more comfortable. But the flight time for that was minutes. We were at Harbor, and I don't even know, but I'd have to ask one of the guys, but it wouldn't take long. 5-10
minutes, something like that. Tops. In a helicopter?
Tops.
Oh, tops. How fast do those helicopters go?
160 knots.
Oh, okay. Was that like 120 miles surface or something like that?
It's only a couple minute flight. It wouldn't be that long.
Wild. And after they got your blood pressure up, I mean, obviously they want to keep you awake, to keep you conscious and keep fighting per se, but it isn't kind of like the humane thing to do, just like put you asleep, give you some drugs so you can relax.
Yeah. In flight, Mike's like, "Hey, dude, you're gonna have to be a hard motherfucker. I can't give you any pain meds; it'll kill you." Like, he told me that. He's like, "You're gonna have to take it because at the time now we carry fentanyl. At the time we only carried morphine. So morphine will kill you. It would drop.
Why?
It'll drop my blood pressure too low. Opiates lower blood pressure. Fentanyl doesn't do it as much as the morphine." And that's all at the time we were allowed to carry. And if he'd have tried to ease my pain at all, it would have killed me.
Oh my gosh. So you're awake this whole time. I mean, in the movies, people are praying or they're calling out for their family or whatever. Did you have any moments like that, either during the 2 hours in the water or on the boat? Again, I can't even imagine the emotional damage. Like, okay, I got to the boat. Now am I going to die on this yacht? Like, I mean... What are you going through in your head? Or is it just kind of still control the controllables and I got to stay alive? At that point,
I just kind of, once I was in the aircraft and I knew I was with all my buddies, I tried to relax a little bit.
Are you a man of faith?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm not super religious by any means.
Way more when you were in the water?
Not so much. I just kept trying to work the problem. I believe what I believe. Yeah, I mean, I believe in God. I was raised Christian, but I'm not super religious. A lot of the stuff the negative stuff with the churches, kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
But I believe what I believe, to answer your question.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Did you make any deal with God when you're in the water? Like, hey man, get me out of this and I'll never smoke again or anything like that?
Never had that moment.
I'd be like, God, if you can get me out of this, I'll get off these nicotine pouches that I keep putting in my mouth and stop smoking cigars, stop cussing. Like, I would have been trying everything.
No, never had that bartering going on. Never popped in my head.
So what happens when you get to, by the way, at this point, does your family know there's a problem? Like once the call goes out over the radio?
No, they don't know anything. So
Okay.
we land at Harbor, UCLA. They're going to drag me out of the back of the aircraft. And I told Kamal, hey, dude, give me your phone. I got to call Les, my wife. And he's like, absolutely not. We're going in the hospital. There's a full trauma team waiting to drag you out of this aircraft and get you into the hospital. Todd Casisco, who was one of the pilots, Todd's standing there helping pull me out. And he's wearing one of the flight suits. We wear more like military uniforms. He's wearing the Top Gun flight suit type, and his phone's sticking in his breast pocket. And I went, whoop. Hey, dude, unlock your phone. So I'm half out of the aircraft, and I called Les to tell her, hey, I got hurt. I'm at Harbor. Stand by your phone. They're going to come get you. But she didn't answer her phone. So she got a really shitty voicemail. She didn't recognize the number. She thought it was a solicitor. And that was it. I still, to this day, haven't heard it. I heard it's pretty brutal. I don't care to hear it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Because I imagine as your wife, Les, it's like there's certain risks you accept when you're married to anybody in law force. Then there's like additional risk that you accept when your husband tells you he wants to go be on a SWAT team. And so it's like, I imagine in her mind, she's played out like, what does this call look like if they're breaching a door and something goes wrong? I'm sure she would never expect that on a sunny day when you're supposed to be out teaching a dive class.
Yeah. So that's exactly what happened. So then it's a bunch of radio traffic. People are asking for her cell phone number. Who has it? We all know somebody has it.
Right.
They're trying to figure it out. One of our friends, Chris, was a scout of one of the SWAT teams. He hears it and goes, I'm down the street. I'll go get her. So he calls. And Les recognizes Chris's number, answers it, and says, hey, where you at? Are you at home? Yeah. She initially is going, what's wrong? And he's rolling lights and siren to come get her. And she's like, what is going on? So he tells her, hey, there's been an accident. I don't have any details. I just know it's bad. I'm going to take you to get on the helicopter. And she's now, like you said, going down the rabbit hole in her head of everything that could have been wrong. And then it's, well, what kind of accident? It had something to do with the boat. And then she went into the whole denial side of it. Her side is completely different. She'd probably be a better interview for you than me. She's like, there's no way. I'm one of the senior guys on the maritime side. I'm a boat captain. We race boats. He water ski races. Like our whole family's into boating.
Yeah. There's no such thing as a boat accident.
My family and her family. I mean, there's accidents, but she's in total denial. Like, hey, this isn't right. And yeah, lo and behold, the phone rings again. She tells Chris, because they were off school. Both of my boys were off school. They were probably 11 or 12 at the time, and they were off on fall break. So she was home from work, going to play with them. And now it's like, now I got to figure out somebody to get over here to watch them. I don't want to scare them. Her life's unraveling in a hurry. So then she's yelling at Chris, hey, turn your lights and sirens off because I don't want the kids to know. So he picks her up and took her to the helipad, and she jumped on Air 5, which once I was out, then went straight to get her. And now she's trying to get a hold of my parents. Are you at? Casey's hurt. The helicopter's coming. I don't know what's going on. All that. She's trying to organize all of that family component. They get on the helicopter, and she sees Mark. Mark was initially the medic. Kamal stayed with me in the aircraft, in the hospital, and then Mark, crew chief, the aircraft to go get my family. And it wasn't until the first helipad they went to, which is the one at the sheriff's station, our aircraft's too big to land on. We'll fall through. At the old station, we would have fallen through the roof. The aircraft weighs too much. So Todd Casisco calls back and is like, hey, Les, it's Todd. Sorry for that voicemail Casey left. And she's like, what do you mean you left me a voicemail? That's when she realized, and that's when she said she really lost it. That's when she started bawling and realized I was alive. Because no one had told her I was alive or dead yet. Nobody really knew what my status was. So all she knew was there's a lot of moving parts. And Todd's like, hey, it actually looks better. We're coming to get you right now. He's okay. Sorry, we let him make a bad phone call to you.
Oh.
But that's always been our agreement. Even since I was in patrol. If I'm going to something or I get involved in something, I'll call you and I'll at least I'm going to it. I'll let you know when I'm safe. If you're going to hear bad news, I want you to hear it from me. So that's always been our agreement.
Hey there, Scott Groves with a quick interruption to the podcast. Sorry about that, but I just want to take a quick minute to announce our sponsors here for the podcast, and that sponsor is me, Scott Groves. It's actually the revenue that we generate through doing mortgages here at Neo Home Loans and the money that we generate from the coaching program that I run, Consolidated Coaching for Loan Officers, coaching by loan officers for loan officers that helps support this podcast. I really started this in 2021 as a passion project during COVID, and we're excited to bring you a new episode every week, but this only happens if I'm making money in my real full-time job. So please, if you or somebody you know is looking to buy, sell, or refinance a house, our team is licensed in almost every state in the country. And if you know a loan officer who's looking for sales coaching, personal development coaching, lead generation coaching, please get in touch with us. Scott at the Scott Groves team. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love for you to support our other endeavors, which is mortgage financing and loan officer coaching, which allows this podcast to exist. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Why did she remarry you again? Just out of curiosity. I mean, I just can't imagine being married to a law enforcement officer.
She wanted to go slumming it with me, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I was dating a girl in my 20s who was going to Long Beach State, and she just knew from like 15 she wanted to be a homicide detective, and she recently got promoted to the youngest female homicide detective ever in LAPD. And like as she was coming up on college graduation, I was like, yeah, I can be honest, man, I don't really want to be married to a cop. And so we went out to dinner, and I'm like, I think you're awesome. Please let me still hang out with your dad, who's been a mentor of mine for like 20 years now. And yeah, this is kind of over because like I'm just not interested in being married to somebody who's on patrol. Like my ego or my whatever insecurity just wasn't I couldn't handle that. Ended up all working out. She's got a great husband. I got a great wife. We got great kids. But I mean, can you speak to your wife? Because it really does take a unique individual to be married to someone like you.
She is an absolute saint all the way around. Like, she's the rock of our family. So she runs a private jet company. She's in private business. She's vice president of a company called Jet Aviation.
Thank God, because whatever you get paid to do this job is not enough.
Yeah. She manages our entire life and lets me go play every day at work. She's the biggest supporter of all of us and all the crazy things we do. Yeah, I'm lucky. Yeah.
Up until this point, because you've got 5 years in the jail, which you made the joke about just handing out toilet paper, but I know from my best friend growing up, his dad was a sheriff also, and his wife would say, oh, the 2-year rotation that he would do in the jails, he was miserable. He was an angry, hateful person. And then when he was on patrol, he was just, there was my husband again, right? So I know that's not easy because of just kind of the dredges of society that you're working with every day. And then patrol, I don't know if you had any close calls, or now you've been in SWAT for a while. I don't know if you had any close calls. Like, had you been pretty unscathed up to this point where your wife didn't have to worry about you and then you get messed up by a whale?
I've been involved in quite a few things. Just if you go out every night as a law enforcement officer looking for monsters, you're going to find monsters. If you want to find a soccer mom to write a ticket, that's all you're going to find. All I wanted to do is go to SWAT and try to have the most impact in the crisis type situations. That's all you want. Making good decisions under stress. That was always my goal. Kevin, my uncle, his dad worked my unit way back when it was brand new. So I knew about it. When I got done playing ball, my dad was a lineman and Kevin was already a deputy, and his dad had worked SEB before. So it was time
What's
to get
SCB? Sorry.
Special Enforcement Bureau.
Okay. SWAT.
Yeah. So when I got done playing for the Braves, it was make a decision. Either I go be a lineman or go and be a SWAT deputy.
Wait, so when you said your best hitting coach was at Cal State Northridge, you made it into the major leagues?
Yeah, I got drafted by Atlanta.
Oh. That's awesome that your college coach was a better hitting coach than what you had in the major leagues.
Hands down. He was the best hitting coach I had.
What'd you play?
I got drafted as a third baseman. So they had a guy named Chipper Jones, and I got a real job.
Kind of good.
Yeah. So
yeah, you were, no offense to you, but you weren't starting over Chipper Jones anytime soon.
And I only did it about long enough to say I did.
So as we were walking in, I was talking to your son who's 19. I'm like, oh, he's got these really cool tattoos on his leg. I was like, man, I don't know if I'm just getting older or you kids are looking younger, but you didn't look old enough to have tattoos. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just going to school long enough till I can get into the sheriff's department.
Yep.
What is that like for your wife who has dealt with all of this, and we'll get to the recovery in a minute, because I'm sure that wasn't an easy process, who's now like, great, I've been dealing with this shit for 20 years with my husband. Now I got to worry about my son.
We try to talk him out of it. He's adamant he wants to do this. So now it's kind of the point where we have to embrace it and support him. Now, granted, it was during the whole defund, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It seems like the political acceptance is kind of the pendulum swinging back somewhat to normal, neutral.
Thank God.
If there is something like that. It's a hard enough job as it is without having the big media crucify you.
Yeah. I was thinking about this all during the defund the police. I'm like, why would anybody sign up to go into law enforcement right now? Like, you could have a 25-year stellar career, and one, I won't even call it a mistake, just one negative news story can ruin your career, threaten your pension, like threaten your freedom. Looking at you over there, buddy. He's too far in. But I'm like, if my kid, I was in the Army, if my kid wanted to join the military up until about, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, when there's going to be probably a massive overhaul of the military, I'd be like, no, I can't support it. So what is that like for you as a father?
You just hit the nail on the head. Everything you just said was all the emotions we've had about it since. He said that's what he wanted to do. We support him.
Fucking adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, I turned 18. You don't have any control anymore.
Right. Did you notice what the tattoos were?
No.
It's a ship running over a whale.
You could have got something a little bit less on the chin, Moby Dick or the whale swallowing Pinocchio or something, but just right for the boat over the whale.
Well, even my daughter has a tattoo. My daughter's the oldest. I had wrote a note when I left the house the night on Sunday, thinking I was coming up here for the shooting. I wrote a real quick note to everybody. Hey, I love you. Be good kids. Listen to mom. And I love you. Well, she got I love you in my handwriting that I left the note for them. Like, I don't know. So I'm proud of all of them. I got some pretty legit kids.
That's awesome. So you end up at the hospital with missing toes and major lacerations on your leg, and probably still not out of the woods with blood pressure issues and stuff like that. How long did it take you because you're awake for all this? How long did it take them to stabilize you?
It took them about 6 hours, I think, something like that. I forget how many hours it was, but it was hours and hours to get me stable enough to go into the surgery. They told me I was probably going to be a double amputee at the knee because of like what you said, what was the salt water good or bad? They were saying that my injuries were probably not ever going to heal correctly. And then added to which I've been in the ocean with all the microorganisms for so long.
Oh yeah. Infection, right?
The infection's going to set in.
Like, are they just pumping you full of every known antibiotic at this point?
For weeks and weeks. So I was super hypothermic. They had the inflatable bear hugger blanket. I've always heard it called the bear hugger by the nurses, even when I was going through my clinical rotations. So they have this warm air blowing into this inflatable blanket, and then they pack blankets on top of that, trying to rewarm me. I got to go get CT scans and all the scans that they were going to run prior to going into surgery. And they were all very adamant. Like, you're probably going to be a double amputee at the knee just from your injuries. At the moment, I didn't really care about it. I was just happy to be alive and that I was on land and the family was coming. So yeah, Les ends up getting there with my parents.
By the way, do they, in the heat of that moment, which is now extending over hours, do they ask you, like, is there a decision where they're like, hey, it's option A, option B, like, do you want to opt into the double amputee situation, or do you want us to try to save this, or are they just going to do what they do in surgery and see where it goes from there?
I don't ever remember having that conversation. I think it was just more
the fact that you remember anything blows my mind, by the way.
We'll see where it goes from here. That's the way I remember it. Now, asking someone else who was there would be much better.
Right.
Because they finally started giving me some pain meds for my feet at the hospital now that my blood pressure was in a more stable environment. And yeah. Hours go by and it's all right, off to surgery you go. And kissed everybody, said, I love yous and see you when I get out. Hopefully I have feet. Hopefully we'll see what happens. But the doctors were pretty adamant. They were like, you're more than likely going to be a double amputee.
Do you see your injuries?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I could see them.
Oh.
Yeah.
God.
So it made sense why they were going to say like, yeah, you're going to probably lose these because the images are, well, you'll have them.
Yeah. Vicious.
yeah, then I come out of surgery, I'm all groggy, and there's Les, and I have feet wrapped in surgical splints, pins hanging out everywhere. They had to repin everything. And so we have doctors associated with our program and our medical program. They fly with us. I never really got invested with them for whatever reason. It was just,
Yeah, you hand somebody off and leave, right?
yeah, well, I mean, these are like doctors who are also volunteers and reserves with the sheriff's department. I was never proactive on my own end. They're nice guys. I just figured like, oh, these are a bunch of cops who want to come fly around a helicopter and shoot machine guns.
Doctors.
Yeah.
Doctors. Okay.
The doctors are. So I just never really got involved with them. Well, one of those doctors is Dr. Louis Kwong. I didn't know it at the time, but he's chief of orthopedics at UCLA, specifically Harvard UCLA. He was in a different surgery. They went in and told him, hey, one of the SCB guys is tore up pretty bad. You need to come take a look. And it was his resident that was starting the surgery. So he hit the big button and brought in a ton of doctors and said, you know what? We're going to reattach everything. We can always cut them off. I'd have to call him, find out how many hours that surgery was, but it was a long time. They had me on the table long enough where he took a break to come out to talk to my family and go back in. So now I'm in the ICU. Been in the ICU for a minute.
You're like the crowning achievement of this guy's career, right? You put all the legs back together. It's like putting Humpty Dumpty back together.
Put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Yeah, but he's got patents for stuff for the hip replacement. He's had a storied career. He's a phenomenal surgeon. Took care of the kid. Like my kids were using his office is like their personal place to go kick it. Like he was the most accommodating. Yeah, he went above and beyond for us. Dude, my 2 weeks in the ICU. During that time, my part of my left foot it was dying. So we amputated that part. It was a small toe up towards like the ball of my foot. That toe got taken off and he goes, if that's all you lose, you'll be good. So have a couple more surgeries and then I get released from the hospital.
During these couple weeks in these surgeries, like, I mean, there's got to be some logistics, right? Like families got to get taken care of. Like, are you thinking medical retirement? Is your commander coming in being like, man, it was great having you on the team.
Everybody's supportive.
Good luck. You'll never come back because I can see what's going on with your legs. Like
those thoughts are already going through my head. Nobody's talking about that. They did a phenomenal job they put my family up in a hospital so they could, guys were around the clock to the point where actually they had to they were posting deputies outside the door because people were coming so much. Like he has to sleep. Guys were showing up at 1, 2 in the morning, on their shit. Like, hey, we're going to go keep him company. I'm like, hey, he's got to sleep.
Yeah. And are they making fun of you about the whale?
At that point, I got a lot of, are you sure? Are you really sure? A whale? Like, you sure? And then I think it was like the first week I was home, that 60-foot fin whale, juvenile fin whale with prop marks all over it is dead in the same part of the channel that I had the accident in. I'm like, yeah, how do you like me now?
Yeah. Yeah.
I called it.
Got that whale.
Yeah.
Payback.
Check. Yeah.
Oh man. Oh my goodness. Okay. So then what, like staring down the barrel of recovery, right? What does that look like? Because is there, I have a buddy who lost his leg in a motorcycle accident and I've talked to him about that emotional roller coaster of like, I lost the leg. I'll never be the same. Oh, no problem. I'm Rocky. I'm going to get back to it. To no, woe is me. Like what's the emotional damage when you're in the water? It's easy to say, I got to stay alive, control the controllables. There's a lot more time to think when you're going through surgery and rehab.
1000%. I started getting frustrated in the ICU. I was starting to worry about the wrong stuff, like starting to go down the rabbit holes in your mind of, am I going to be able to get back to work? Am I going to keep my feet? What's my quality of life going to be? That snowball gets bigger rolling down the mountain as I'm home. I'm stuck in a wheelchair for months on end. Everybody only wanted to help. And the support group was phenomenal. Like I can't thank everybody enough. But as weeks wear on and then it's a month later and I got to have another surgery and I got to have another surgery a month later after that. And I'm still in a wheelchair and to go from, I can't go, our bedroom's upstairs. I'm sleeping on the Murphy bed in my wife's office. I can go from that bed to the couch and to the bathroom. That's my 10-foot little
triangle world for months.
Yeah. And to go to the bathroom is exhausting, like trying to get in and out of a wheelchair. Like my respect for people with disabilities, like I totally took my life for granted and the abilities that I have and had prior to that. Like physically exhausted, sweating like I just ran a marathon, and all I did is went to go take a piss in the bathroom. Like, oh, and then you start going down that rabbit hole, like somebody's always here. Like, I just want to be left alone. Well, then that starts making you feel like, no, now I am alone. I'm just in a crowded room, but I'm alone. I'm by myself. Like, and I'm really starting to like go down that rabbit hole. We work with a lot of the special ops units in the military, and a couple of them guys that I'm friends with, they've been wounded. And Mike, the PJ that was on the boat that day, he told me early on, start keeping a journal. And I wish I'd have taken his advice, because me being the dumbass I am, like, dude, I don't write your diary. I'm not some little girl. What are you talking about? He's like, seriously, start writing a journal. He's like, you're gonna remember things wrong or not at all. And he was very like, just a matter of fact. I wish I'd have started sooner. And not that I wrote a journal. Like I just basically started like a Word document, and I'd write a date and a couple, like, oh, this happened today or that happened today. But yeah, so I was in a wheelchair for 3 months and change.
And what's crazy, it's like, not to minimize the damage that other people experience, but I do jiu-jitsu for about an hour and a half a day, and then I'm at a desk all day, right? Like I could actually do my job from a wheelchair. It'd be a lot to come to grips with, not being able to run with the kids or do jiu-jitsu, although I know some double amputees that are pretty awesome at jiu-jitsu, one of which kicks my ass frequently. But it's different because you're coming from a job that's completely about your athleticism. I mean, you're a pro ball player. Like that's got to start to work into your head of like, who I was. Oh, yeah. Can I ever be that person again? Will my wife love me? Will I be able to do this stuff with my kids? I mean, like the emotional damage has got to be brutal.
Yeah, it was, that part of the mental side was just the tip of the iceberg. It started getting worse as things wore on. And then so I was on a heavy antibiotic regimen for months afterwards, because Dr. Kwong was like, hey, sooner or later, you're going to get an infection. There's no way around it. And when you do get an infection, if we don't get a handle on it, we're going to cut your legs off, because that's the only thing that's going to save your life.
And I think a lot of people who maybe don't go to a gym that's notorious for passing around skin diseases, antibiotics destroy your body, destroys your gut biome, which we now have a lot of science. Your gut biome interacts with your brain for things like depression. And then when you're on antibiotics for too long, the side effects are simultaneously extreme fatigue and insomnia. So it's like you're destroyed physically and you can't sleep. I mean, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I didn't sleep hardly at all that first probably 8-9 months. I couldn't even handle the weight of a sheet on my feet. The nerve issues, because they had to do nerve whatever the doctors do, but I severed some nerves. They had to redo some stuff in the surgery.
Is the pain like sharp, excruciating, or is it just like a throbbing that's always there, or both? Or
in the hospital, it was the most excruciating thing. It was nonstop. I couldn't get a handle on it. Like trying to not to panic the kids and scream, and with the hand I'm not holding their hand with, trying to rip a bed rail off in the hospital. And then as wounds heal, nerves take a lot longer. Even parts above the injury, if you touch my leg and it activated a nerve, it would cause my foot to do something crazy, which would then just nerves are their own animal. Like you could touch one part of my foot and I would feel it up on my knee, like the referred type pain. Yeah, the nerve issues are unique. Now the issues I have where the prop went through the front of my right foot, the ball of my right foot, the bones aren't completely aligned right. So walking on any hard surface without even a pair of socks on, that socks will take the edge off it, but I have to wear like flip-flops or slippers or shoes or something to have the cushion on that. The opposite is true with my left foot. The toes are now, the ones that were reattached are now shortening and kind of look like a hammer toe almost because of the scar tissue. So having a shoe on and staying stationary for a long time, it actually feels like I'm getting like an ice pick pushed through it just from the pressure on the toes. My heel, which caused me the most issues during this rehab, which probably be a good time to talk about it now. I had a baseball-sized chunk of necrotic dead tissue come off April the following year.
What do you mean come off?
So I had a bunch of dead black tissue on my foot, and they just didn't know how deep it went. And the wound was so big, it took months and months for this tissue to come off. And when it did, I had exposed calcaneus again. So
your flesh just like rotted off?
Yeah. Yep. Turned black, like Mr. Deeds, the Blackfoot. Did you ever see that Adam Sandler movie? Yeah, that's what my heel looked like. So I had a big chunk of dead black tissue that was hard. Eventually.
Man, what a turn on for your wife.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, she's a saint.
Oh, God. Hey, honey, that dead necrotic foot's looking pretty sexy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God. Did they like take it off in surgery, or is it just kind of like
once it
slough off?
Once it kind of sloughed off and the body cast it away.
Oh, I'm going to puke.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You could see the calcaneus.
That's the bone, the heel bone?
The heel bone. And the next morning, I called Dr. Kwong as soon as it came off because we were aware it was getting close and he wasn't quite sure. He goes, if you see the bone, you got to call me immediately.
Yeah, no shit. If you see the bone?
So the next morning, I'm in surgery because we got to deal with this. So I don't get a bone infection. Because if I got a bone infection, they were going to cut my foot off. So this is where I'd had 6 surgeries up to this point. Now it's April of 18. And it's every week I'm going in for surgery. And now we're getting...
Every week?
Yeah. He started doing stem cell applications, trying to he went above and beyond. He went to the Musculoskeletal Transplant Foundation in Edison, New Jersey, to get the most up-to-date science about what to do and things I didn't know. If you lose your heel pad, they cut your foot off because that tissue is so specific. It supports not just your weight when you're standing, but multiple factors of your body weight, running, jumping. And it can't be transplanted. If you lose your heel pad, you're going to lose your foot. And I just lost a massive piece of mine. So that first, from April to October, I had like another 18 surgery. I'd have to look at the notes, but I think it's 18 surgeries from then to there. And
18 surgeries?
All I knew about stem cells was, what you see the protesters, don't play God.
Yeah.
So now that
But like 18 surgeries, every time you're going into surgery, they're putting you under, right?
Which anesthesia for every single one of these.
Which carries some greater than zero risk of not making it out of surgery. Like just rolling the dice, it sounds like you're up to like 25 surgeries now. That's a lot of dice rolling.
In a year.
Holy cow.
And the big thing is like, that stuff's cumulative. Like I went from not having any issues I've never had issues with anesthesia, but like not having good memory for days afterwards. The kid, Les, Shy, Ty, Cade, all my kids, they're like, yeah, we just talked about that. I'm like, I don't remember it. I don't know what you're talking about. And then as the days go, your body gets that, gets that shit out of your system and it gets better. Oh yeah. Like just not feeling right for a couple days after, and it's one after another. So yeah, a year and 20 days after the accident, he cut me back light duty.
Dude, I'd love to look at your medical bill.
Oh,
like, thank God the sheriff's department has good medical insurance, but you're like the bionic, you're like the $6 million man. I guarantee you've had at least $6 million worth of surgeries.
I have no idea.
So did you just say you went back to active duty a year and 4 months later?
Year and 20 days to light duty and then full duty January of 19.
No, that just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Like, why not just take the medical retirement and say, hey, thanks, peace, guys, the whale got me?
No, nope, not for me. I found a lot of things to push and fight against. One of them being the workers' comp people.
So wait, just real quick. How do they fix the heel? Because we just went from dead tissue. If you lose this piece of your body, they're probably cutting off your foot. And spoiler alert, you still have both your feet.
Yeah.
So how did Dr. Kwan pull off this miracle?
So what they did is he cut all the tissue back to where there was healthy tissue and obviously exposed a lot of the calcaneus. And he drilled holes in the bone to cause it to bleed and then packs stem cells in and then a matrix on top of that. And then let that grow for a week, and then you do it again the next week and the week after that. And the tissue growth is exponential with stem cells. I don't understand what the big hang up on stem cells are. I just, like I said, you see the protesters on TV. Having been through this, they harvest amniotic stem cells from donated placentas in the hospital. Like after birth, the placenta can be donated. They harvest the stem cells, and I have feet because somebody donated a placenta. It's no different than donating a heart after someone passes away.
Or blood.
Or blood.
It's leftover.
Yeah. Even more so. Yeah, like you said. It's like donating blood.
Yeah.
It's huge. Like, The only reason I have a quality of life is because of this
So they
technology.
regrew your heel.
Yep.
I mean, this is like some science fiction shit. 50
Yep.
years ago, you're probably dead.
Yep.
40 years ago, probably dead. 30 years ago, you're almost certainly a double amputee. Like, I guess this is why the cost of healthcare has gone up, because they could do some miraculous stuff like regrow body parts.
Yep.
Oh, man. And where is it at, like, today? Like, if you had to evaluate your heel, your balance, stuff like that, 90%, 95%, 90?
All right. Balance isn't 100%. And I'm also like cutting hairs, like with how I was at 18.
Right. But spoiler alert, how old are you?
It was 48.
48, yeah.
So-
48, we're not going to be as well off as your 19-year-old here,
no,
right?
but I still judge myself by those standards.
Of course. Well, you have to if you're going into the situations you're going to do.
Yeah.
So you went back to light duty. Did anybody give you shit as far as like, why are you coming back? You're injured. You're permanently injured. Was there any grief, like some review board, like out of the movies or anything like that?
No, the county later on wanted me to retire. Once I think they got the bill. And
Yeah.
it was going through the workers' comp settlement process. They wanted me to retire then, but I was already back to work. So I successfully beat that part.
What was the dilemma with the workman's comp bill?
Because I have a rated disability for missing part of my foot, and it's all legalese. But there's a bail schedule, if you want to call it that, a schedule for, you're this disabled. You have this is
just like a veteran disability schedule.
Very similar.
Yeah.
And the judge in the case said, no, if he can keep working, he can.
So they wanted you off the force because based on your disability rating, you technically have some physical disability that they have to pay you for.
Right.
So therefore, their argument is whatever. If your disability rating is 25%, theoretically, you should be 25% less effective on the job. Something
along that line, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the workers' comp whole thing is broken every which way. It's broken from the insurance side. It's broken from in my case, the deputy side. I'd be lying if I said that there's not deputies milking it.
Yeah.
But the system's broken on the other side too. Having 6 surgeries and then being cleared to start doing physical therapy, and they sit on it for a month. And this is the time where I'm going to be getting all my range of motion back, and they just won't approve it. They're like, no, we have our X amount of days to wait until we'll grant it then. Perfect example when that necrotic tissue came off my heel, and I called Dr. Kwong and, hey, sir, yeah, I got bone. He goes, okay, I'll see you in surgery tomorrow. I'm like, hey, sir, do we need to like tell the workers' comp people? And he's like, ooh, yeah, call them. And if there's any issues, call me and we'll get on a conference call and we'll sort it out. So call the adjuster. It takes forever to get a hold of somebody, get a hold of them, finally get somebody on the phone. And they're like, yeah, that's not how it works. Your doctor submits a request for authorization. We have 10 business days to get it to our doctors, and then they have so many days to review it, and then you'll get it in writing a month after. You're like, dude, you're killing me.
Yeah, you can see my bone, asshole.
Yeah. So I'm like, hey, do me a favor. I'm going to get the doctor on the phone. Can you get your supervisor on the phone? You can hear like the record scratch. You're going to do what? I'm like, yeah, just get your supervisor on. I'm going to get mine. I'll be right back. So now we have all 4 of us on the call. And he lays out all the medical necessity on why I'm going to get a bone infection, have to cause amputate the foot, like these are the reasons why I need to be in surgery. And the supervisor's like, well, sir, that's not how this works. You do everything I just laid out, and our doctors review it. And he goes, well, get your doctors on the phone. They go, no, sir, that's not how it works. And he is the most professional, like just not taking no. And he's like, seriously, get your doctor on the phone. This is important. And he goes, well, if it's that important, he needs to go get himself checked into the hospital. And he goes, you're absolutely right. But I'm trying to save you from paying a night hospital stay. He can just show up at 6. He doesn't need to be there right now. You just need to approve the surgery. And then you get that, well, our doctors, and he goes, look, call your doctor, tell him it's Dr. Louis Kwong from Harvard UCLA, and they'll know who I am. And you could hear the record, like, you're not going to win. Okay, you can do it this one time, just in the future, right? He goes, this isn't that kind of a scenario. There's no time to write this out. If you want him to stay overnight, he can stay overnight. You're going to pay for a bed. That's how broken the system is. They're not listening to the doctor. They're just looking at it from like a bean counter.
Yeah. And I get that there's like a cost component that goes to it, but at some point the bureaucracy just exists for the bureaucracy. Like I almost put my fist through the screen of my computer the other day. I do mortgages for a living, and we were transferring the parent company that our mortgage company is domiciled under. and I have licenses in 8 states to do mortgages. Submitted those all through the portal. 7 of them back within 24 hours, you're approved. Texas, Idaho, Arizona, Florida, Nevada, done in 24 hours. I get an email that same 24 hours later from the state of California. Within 15 days, we'll review your blah, 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 blah. And it's like, it's literally just clicking one button, which is probably automated, that just says Scott works at Neo Home Loans for Illuminate versus Neo Home Loans for Better. It changes nothing. Like, I'm still doing the same activities, but it's just this like in California, especially bureaucracy on top of bureaucracy on top of bureaucracy. And like, I mean, with your bone exposed, if you waited 30 days and you get an infection, maybe you die.
Oh yeah. I could have gone septic easy. It for sure would have cost me my foot. So, and on the flip side of that, you hear about, and there's people milking the system on the other side. The system's broken from both sides.
Yeah.
So to me, it was something I could really, here, I'm going to give it to both sides. You're going to try and get medically retired for a paper cut. I'm coming back to work.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Oh, you're going to try and keep me out. No, I'm going to make it back even though workers' comp's broke.
So
it was just something for me. I needed that. I needed something to compete against, or
everybody needs a goal, right?
What's that?
Everybody needs a goal.
Yeah. So it was like, all right, I'm not just coming back. I'm coming back in a year. I missed it by 20 days.
By the way, back to your wife.
Yeah.
What does this conversation look like with your wife where, you know, I'll give you a corollary. My dad, when my parents were still married, decided he was going to get a motorcycle. And she was like, okay, but if you crash, like, I'm out, right? Sure enough, gets drilled, like literally just sitting at a stop sign, crushes the right side of his body. To my mom's credit, stayed with him, rehab, brutal year of like nothing on the right-hand side of his body worked. He looked like a stroke patient, comes back, and she's like, cool, well, you tried that. Goes out, buys another motorcycle, crushes the left side of his body. And she's like, yeah, no, now I'm really out, divorce paperwork, let's go, like, come on. What's that conversation with your wife where you're like, hey, this was a whale, could have been a bullet, but I'm going to go back? Did she ever say, no, you're not? Like, go get an office job?
No.
No? Your wife's a saint. A total saint.
Yeah.
I would have told you no chance you're going back in the water ever. You're not getting on a boat again. Like,
so funny. My first day back light duty, I had to drive to the island. I had to do it the next.
No way. This had to be.
There was a dive death, and I wasn't diving. I was driving the boats, but oh yeah. And then so that's where the ribbon comes in. Like, we're driving, and I'm driving the boat out. No big deal. Done it a ton of times, and we're mid channel. All of a sudden, everybody stops talking. What the fuck's wrong with you guys? Oh, we're waiting to see if you're going to get a tick. You're going to start freaking out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because Jim's the one on the boat.
Right.
A bunch of other dudes are too, but Jim's really like, dude, you all right? Seriously. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you know where we are? I go, is this where it was? I knew it was in a ballpark.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, that little flashing marker on that chart plotter, it's this is somewhere. It was right where we were. And right where I was. And so they all big hug, and then they start giving you a hard time. And
yeah, looking for whales.
Yeah. So they all go back to all these conversations, and we're driving. So I reached up and deleted the dot. I wish I hadn't, because now I don't have the actual lat long anymore. I took it off the plotter. But yeah. Those kind of, that's the fun part. Guys giving you a hard time about stuff like that.
Wow. You mentioned something, because I just want to circle back from when we first started. You're like, the other guys that were more mad were the ones that had to get on the moving boat. What does that look like? Do they just like dangle them over the helicopter and somebody drops into the boat, the one that was circling that you got thrown from? Because you said those guys were the ones who were a little bit more pissed.
Yeah, so because they got it was full tank of gas, and they were hoping it was going to run out, and it wasn't running out, and it was getting closer to some of where a lot of boat traffic was. So they ended up having to board it, which if you don't have to, it's a big risk. So they actually had to come inside it, turn into it, pin it, and Jim climbed across and shut it down.
Poor Jim.
And then he got to come to the hospital to deal with me.
Oh, man. So talk about the rehab. Is it painful? Do you block it out of your mind? Like, what does the rehab look like from going 3 months in a wheelchair? So now, not only are your legs torn up, they're probably atrophied, right? You've got almost no muscle left. What does the rehab look like to come back to active duty? And again, it's not like you're coming back to active duty homicide detective where you walk the scene and go back to your desk. You're coming back to active duty SWAT.
Oh, no, or December is when I got to stop taking the antibiotics. So that was cool. I had been very disciplined on my nutrition, everything up to that point. Well, as soon as that was done, that was also the big thing why Dr. Kwong was like, hey, dude, don't drink. It diminishes the performance of the antibiotics. It's middle of football season, and now people are coming with beer. And you're sitting around. So Les has a very hard conversation with Jim. She's like, hey, we gotta stop this. Like the nutrition's going the wrong way. He still isn't cleared to do physical therapy. So
he's getting fat.
Yeah. Like I'm not mentally as focused as I was on getting back all the way around at that point. So Jim comes up with an idea that they're going to kidnap me for the day. And they tell me it's coming. They're like, hey, they're going to take you up to Barley Flats, which is our air base where we stage out of. They're going to pick you up in the helicopter and take you up there for a day. And so Jim puts me on the aircraft and takes me out to the gym up there. And I had a doctor's appointment a couple days prior. And that's when Dr. Kwong's like, hey, you're cleared and you're good to go on physical therapy. It's all on you now. How far you get back is how much your work you're willing to put into your PT. Then it's the waiting game with the workers' comp. They're not doing it. They're just sitting on it, stalled out. So Les calls Jim. Jim comes up with this idea. They're going to fly me up there. He's going to put me through a workout. We go up there, and he kind of gets me away from the rest of the crew in the gym and tells me about the conversation he has with Les. And she was concerned because I was drinking a little bit. She didn't want it to be a problem, but my mind wasn't in the right way to start really pushing. And I took it to heart, but I was kind of internalized everything. He put me through the workout. That was the first time I walked, was up there in the gym. He made me walk across the gym with 2 walking boots. Dr. Kwong didn't want me on my heel a lot, but he let me start pushing it a little bit around that time. So we landed. I was really embarrassed that one of my closest friends had this conversation with Les, and we didn't really talk about it that much. I told her I wasn't real happy that she had shared it with him, but she's like, hey, I'm not going to sit around and let you go backwards. So I'm going to call. If I have to ask somebody for help for you, I will. Okay. So then it was what I needed. I got punched in the face. Basically.
I got to think you're having a few drinks. You came off this months of not being able to move your body. They probably got you on a massive amount of pain pills.
No, I didn't take any pain meds after I left the hospital. I took them the first night to get some sleep. And after that, I didn't want any part of them. Pain meds don't make the pain go away. They make me feel like shit. They don't sit well with me. I'd rather just deal with it.
No pain meds.
No, I got rid of them all. The second day I was home.
Probably a good thing.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. They don't make the pain go away, but they'll take the edge off it a little bit, but they made me feel horrible. So best thing I ever did. And then I have another friend who's a doctor who has a doctor of physical therapy that works for him at his practice that he owns. They were kind enough to work on me on their own while the workers' comp thing ran its course for another month or so. And
it's not like they're approving a lot of money. Physical therapy is like $100 an hour or something. You've already juiced them for a few million in surgeries. Like, What's the physical therapist or the PA or whoever's going to be working with you? Like, that's going to be a drop in the bucket compared to what you cost them. The fact that it took them 30 days to approve that is just crazy.
And but physical therapy, it was torture. Like, they're trying to get things to move that hadn't moved in months, things that had just had the hardware taken out of my foot, like the pins got taken out.
How many pins do you have in your leg to hold everything together?
I had 3 or 4 on my left foot or right foot. I gotta think about it. 4 on the right, 2 on the left to hold. Yeah.
Just holding everything together.
Yeah, there were
heels.
K-wire pins that run the whole length of your foot, trying to keep things stationary. They came out, I think, like November, beginning of December.
Do you still have anything in your body? Like any part of you bionic, man? It's all natural.
Yeah, everything's back.
Nice.
Yeah. But when they're trying to get range of motion back, yeah, you better buckle your chin strap. That's going to hurt. That's going to suck.
Because there's all that scar tissue in there that got to break down.
Oh, yeah. It was just, talk about profusely sweating, doing nothing other than laying there, letting them bend things. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember reading about this when Kobe Bryant shredded his Achilles, that the old school thought was like rest it for as long as possible, months later come back to light and whatnot. And now like the more modern science is like, no, you got to start working it right away so that scar tissue forms in the correct direction with the rest of the muscle. Because if not, it gets exponentially worse to tear that all up and try to get it to relay down the right way. I don't know why I read this whole article about medical rehabilitation. Hopefully I never blow out my Achilles, but you've got months now of built up scar tissue that you've got to basically tear through and relay down those muscle fibers.
Yep.
How'd that feel?
Brutal. Absolutely brutal. Yeah. So that sucked. But I don't know how else to say it, but you'll laugh at this. So I took everything Les said to heart and Jim said to heart, and a couple days go by. It's January. I'm still waiting for physical therapy and nothing's really moving. I'm at home with the kids. My daughter's home from college still. She hadn't gone back, and Les is at work. And I remember like, dude, I've had enough. I'm still on a kneeling scooter 99% of the time. So I remember they're upstairs and no one's doing anything. I'm like, hey, I'm going to go to the gym. So, hey, I'll be back later. I'm going to the gym. All right, see you later, Dad. Love you. You know, out the door I go. Throw the scooter in the back of my truck, and I do the weeble wobble up, get in the truck, take the boot off, and I'm trying to drive and see kids in the rear view, like trying to flag me down. I'm out. Next thing you know, the phone's ringing. They called Mom, and now Mom's calling me. I'm not answering. So I went to the gym for a couple hours, came back. It was the best thing I ever did. Got my mind right. And then it was, hey, we're willing to help you out. One of my good buddies. Come on over. We'll work on you for free, pro bono. No worries.
What was the go-to physical therapy? Was it weights? Was it yoga? Was it cycling? Like, what was the go-to thing that you can point to and like, oh man, that did it for me?
The go-to thing for me was for having a schedule.
Oh, so it wasn't any particular exercise?
Being locked in a box for 3 months was brutal. Like the walls start closing in around me. I want out. Like I would get up in the morning. I would go to physical therapy right out the gate. They would do the cranking on you, getting things to move. As the movement got a little bit better, they would start introducing like some strength and conditioning of certain very specific muscles that I had destroyed and ligaments and things. From there, I would go straight to the gym and work out at the gym, come home, eat something.
When you say work out, like at this point, you're still kind of hobbling along. What is
two walking boots and a kneeling scooter with a wound vac? That was me. In the gym.
What a fun guy to be next to when you're trying to like get in a workout.
I got some weird looks. Oh yeah.
And so are you just doing like body weight squats and stuff, or what? You can't really walk on the treadmill, right?
My feet more. I didn't really try to stay on my feet at all, but it was just a lot of just trying to lift, trying to get kind of moving.
Yeah.
Just things to do. And then it was go home, get cleaned up, get the kids from school, and then off to practice we go. And then it was dinner, and then you rinse, repeat, and do it again the next day. That was the best thing for me mentally.
Jesus, man. And when you go back to like, what's the evolution from light duty to like heavier duty to, I saw on your Instagram, you were doing a rescue in the mountains of San Gabriel. So you must be back to just about 100%, whatever 100% looks like for a 48-year-old.
Yeah.
But was it this slow evolution, or was there like a target date of, okay, I got to take the physical fitness test so I can get back on the SWAT team, so that's what I'm aiming for? Or was there a day where you were just like, you woke up and you're like, hey, I feel like I'm back to normal? What does that recovery look like?
It was slow that first year, and that's why I was light duty right out the gate a year after the accident. I physically wasn't able to do the job, and if I wasn't able to do it, I'm not putting my buddies at risk. So I had a 3-month window of just I go into work, I'd help them out with whatever I could, and then I would get in our gym and work out. Now I'm running and I'm doing things.
Running like a year and a half after this.
Yeah. Running, lifting, trying to get
tougher man than I am, man.
No. And then January comes around and they're like, hey, PT course, run it. You're good. You can go. So did the PT course. And
what's the PT course, by the way?
It's not that hard.
Okay.
It's not that bad.
I have seen some fat sheriffs.
Yeah, this was the SCB PT course, not the regular one, but yeah, it's not that bad. And then I worked for a year, and I had some setbacks. My heel didn't quite close up the way it was supposed to. I came out for another year, round of surgeries. Ultimately, at the end of that second year, I came back to work for a handful of months while Dr. Kwong was sorting out what the option was. And ultimately, to the whole recovery side, during this time, Tiger Woods got in that car crash and had the exact same set of doctors I had. That's one little ironic part. But as my heel wasn't closing up, they wanted to do what they call a flap procedure. So they were going to cut out the part that wasn't healing up right, and then they were going to free the tissue from my heel pad and back around by my Achilles, rotate all that tissue around and sew it closed. Dr. Kwong had never done it before, but he found, actually out here, Dr. Weiner in Vegas. He's the one who did the surgery on Alex Smith, the NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
And the flap procedure that saved his leg. So back to dealing with the workers' comp insurance and trying to get them to approve me going to Vegas to have a surgery. That was, they weren't buying it. They're like, you're out of your mind. So they ultimately, he pushed, and I ended up coming up here to Dr. Weiner, and he did the flap procedure with Dr. Kwong watching.
At this point, when they're doing this procedure, is there still the risk of like, hey, if this doesn't work out, we might have to take the foot?
Yep. That was the ultimate. If this one didn't work, they were going to be hands off and whatever happened. So that was surgery number 29 over the course of 4 years.
What, like, obviously you're physically active now. If I didn't know the story when you were walking and coming to the house, I wouldn't have noticed a limp or anything like that. What's the future prognosis? Have they told you like, hey man, when you're 60 or 70, you're going to be lucky if you can hobble along? Or has it recovered to the point where it's like kind of business as normal minus the toe?
It's as good as it's going to get. I'm not right.
Right.
But I'm good enough to do what I got to do.
Holy cow. And how long have you been back, like full-time active with the SWAT, the rescue team, the dive team, all that stuff?
Full duty since when we had the Super Bowl.
Okay.
So I came back 2 weeks before the Super Bowl.
So that's almost 2 years ago or a year ago?
I think it was like 2 years ago.
2 years ago?
Think about that for a second. Yeah, 2 years.
I can't help but think with the job that you do, right? You're breaching a door in a hostage situation, or you're jumping out of a helicopter to save somebody. Is there any doubt in your mind that you can't do the job, or that you might have some physical impediment that's going to put somebody else at risk? Like, does that, because I imagine when you're going to those situations, you have to be of the utmost confidence in your physical abilities and your equipment and your team and all that stuff. Does that doubt ever creep into your mind?
No, not now. Obviously, when I first got back, it was like, hey, can I really pull this off? So the first day I was back in the aircraft, I had them take me up to the top of Baldy. I put on crampons and an ice axe and went ice climbing, because that's the worst thing I could think of for my feet.
Ice climbing.
Yeah, and crampons and ice axe up on top of Baldy. Just get some reps in on it, make sure my toes and my feet could tolerate being in the crampons.
Explain what crampons are for people that don't know what you're talking about.
The big metal spikes that you use to go climbing up frozen waterfalls and ice fields.
Yeah, it sounds like a good first day back at work when your feet almost got torn off.
But I had to do it. I had to know if they would work.
Did you cry when you got to the top of that?
No, it was pretty cool. Dr. Kwong flew with us. So he stayed on the aircraft while I was messing around the mountain, making sure they
like, please don't fall. I can't go through this again.
Yeah. And here's how he is. He's like, hey, you haven't had any patient contacts in a while. Start an IV on me. Like, I'm starting IVs on the dock. He's like, you do the reps.
Man.
Yeah.
And so how much longer you got that you're going to do this before you're just on a boat full time?
I want to get through the Olympics.
Okay. So 2 more years?
4
more years.
Yeah. They sent me to Paris. I worked the Paris Olympics. That was weird, being armed. LA County Sheriff Deputy armed in Paris.
Why would they send LA SWAT team to Paris?
So they sent 4 of us to see what they did, what we could take away.
Because you got to be ready to do it
in LA.
They'd already announced that LA is going to be the Olympics.
Yep. So and then we got World Cup next year, another Super Bowl, and then the Olympics. And then I'll see where I'm at, where maybe somebody else is at.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wild, man. If you had to look back at this whole experience, what did I forget to ask that you've taken away from it, or that's been insightful either about yourself or about the medical world or just about the job that you do? What's the recap on the last 6 or 7 years?
The biggest regret I have is what I put my family through. That's the biggest regret. Because there was times I know I had to been hard to deal with. Like, it was, I'm pretty sure I wasn't a real fun person to be around at times. And then on the flip side of that, it makes me appreciate everything else that we have even more. Yeah. That would probably be my biggest regret. Scaring the shit out of my parents, scaring the shit out of Les, being miserable to be around just because I was frustrated and angry. That anger that I had when I was in the water saved my life. But then with nothing to do with it and I couldn't work out enough to get it out of my system because I was stuck on the couch. Like I couldn't do anything. That helpless feeling just made me more angry. Like it's a different, that would be the hard part. The upside, just stumbling through it. I think all of us, military, law enforcement, fire, we do well when we talk with each other. I found out about EMDR, that eye movement desensitization reprogramming.
I don't know what that is. Yeah.
So I was at All Things. I was at a barbecue out in Colorado with Jenna and Roy and talking, and one of the firemen that was there was talking about Roy had him do it. And basically what it is, it takes high stress, traumatic events are stored in the primal part of your brain. And as your eyes track left to right, whether you're following a finger, a pen, a light bar, and you rework through those very traumatic, high stress events at the really minute detail, it forces your brain, because the left side, right side brain, left optic nerve, right optic nerve, they cross, and it forces you to cognitively, it moves from the primal to the cognitive part. And he's talking about it. And I'm like, yeah, dude, you're full of shit.
Yeah, I don't need this hippy dippy psychotherapy.
Dude, that's why you're a fireman. Kumbaya's over there.
Yeah.
I'm joking, but
right.
I was like, dude, I don't. And then he's talking, and this dude's a like legit military dude before he became a fireman. And he was talking about some of his deployments. But what got me was he's like, yeah, I don't sleep. I'm like, yeah, well, I don't sleep either, dude. But this isn't making sense. And he goes, yeah, but I went and did this EMDR thing. I sleep like great. And now everything's easy. And I was like,
EMDR,
yeah, EMDR. Eye movement desensitization reprogramming.
I wonder if this is a good substitute for my military friends that have like severe PTSD, but don't want to go down the ayahuasca, MDA drug trip, which a lot of them have done, and it's been helpful. But this is
good things about all that stuff.
Yeah.
To me, obviously I can't do that.
Right.
Because I'm not allowed to.
Yeah.
So I get on the plane to come home. I start doing some research, looking at some of the medical stuff on it. I'm like, hey, this actually makes a little bit of sense. So I called our psych services, who obviously we have to go through after certain things, like some of the shootings and stuff like that. And I call up the psych because, I know them. I've had to deal with them. And they're like, yeah, we do that here. I'm like, what are you talking about? You do it here. So I went down, sat down with them. She explained the whole thing, and it's the least invasive thing you could ever do. And I kept thinking, like, everything, the way he slept is the way I was sleeping. I can fall asleep with a drop of a hat. I'll wake up every 45 minutes to an hour after that. And probably 3 to 4 nights a week, I was waking up just profusely sweating through the sheets. I never had night terrors or anything like that, but I would sweat like I would just got out of a pool. But that waking up every couple hours. And then so I started doing it, and just lo and behold, I did the whole process, and I've never slept better, and things just got easier. The downfall was I didn't do that until like 3.5 years in. Like, I wish I'd have done that sooner.
Yeah. Is there still a stigma and kind of like the bro culture of law enforcement, especially SWAT, of like not talking about your feelings and this type of stuff? Or is it more socially acceptable now?
I think it's individualistic. People really didn't talk about it a lot, but I don't have a problem talking to anybody about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
if it helps.
Yeah. To me, it's a no-brainer. Like, if this works, then or you can sleep a little better, cool. Like, why not? So obviously the suicides are through the roof right now. And then we've had some other people throw their careers away. And it's been, so now obviously I wrote the book about it, because the same doctor who helped me out and was doing the physical therapy stuff, he's wrote a couple books, and he knew I was keeping that journal. He's like, hey, you gotta turn this into a manuscript. Because that second year I was out, when I went out the second time, he's like, you need something to do when you're on the couch. This will give you something to do. It'll keep your mind easy going. Because I couldn't go to the gym. I was back stuck non-weight bearing again for another year. So that's when it went from a journal to a manuscript, and then ultimately into a book.
Shameless plug for Treading Water by Casey Cheshier.
Yeah. So, and honestly, it was just therapeutic for me. I didn't care if it went anywhere. But I've had a couple calls from some guys that are going through their own stuff. I don't care if I sell a book after this. I've had 6 calls. One was somebody suicidal. They're all getting help. Other guys were having their own issues, death in the family and some other stuff. The fact that those guys are getting help, I don't care if I sell another book. It was a win. And ultimately it helped me. So
it's amazing, man. I'm only a couple chapters into the book, but I knew that we were going to be talking about this story. So I wanted to talk about it and have some context before I finish the book. So I would, for anybody that's listening to this, check out Treading Water by Casey. And man, I feel like we could talk about this for hours, but I know we're a couple hours in. So
time goes quick.
Time goes quick when you're having a good conversation. I always end on a couple questions. One, what are you most looking forward to? We're filming this at the beginning of 2025. We're luckily a little bit ahead of schedule, so this will probably come out in a month or two. What are you personally looking most forward to in 2025? That's one question. Number 2, favorite movie and why? Because I'm a movie junkie.
Oh, me too.
Okay, perfect. And so I feel like I need to start asking this question at the beginning of the interview because I feel like I can like nail somebody pretty well based just on their favorite movie. And then most interesting challenge coming up for law enforcement in Los Angeles County over the next month, year, decade, whatever way you want to go with that. So what are you looking forward to? What are the challenges facing law enforcement right now? And then favorite movie and why? Any way you want to take that.
So what am I looking forward to? So my youngest is a high school senior. He's graduating, moving on to college. That's cool.
Done. Back 9, last hole.
Ty, he's testing for the department this year. I'm excited to see where that's going. And then my daughter's got her career and off. It's fun. I'm enjoying watching them. He's competing in the water ski racing this year. So traveling the world, chasing him around, just enjoying this last high school basketball year. I'm trying to be in the moment, enjoying being around them. That was probably what I'm looking forward to most. What was the next one?
Favorite movie and why?
Favorite movie.
Let's say that one. Let's say that one. What are the challenges that law enforcement's
challenges law enforcement from a law enforcement officer side is pretty easy. We've lost so much experience because so many guys that were willing to work but had enough time to retire were like, yeah, screw this. I'm out. I'm not dealing with the politics. It's going to take a long time to build that experience back. I don't know how you get, there was people that couldn't retire that just said, screw it. I quit. I want to go do something else. Just
because of the negative media backlash, the public
why do I
perception.
want to risk going to prison for making a split-second decision when I can go make more money doing something else?
Yeah, when some 24-year-old journalist is going to take a story and run with it, having no clue what they're dealing with.
Yep. And then what they've hired behind that, not that they lowered the standards, but it seems like the masses that are being hired don't work hard. That's the catch-22. A lot of people they're happy doing the bare minimum. And I know that's going to sound bad for a lot of people because there are some really good people being hired, but it seems like the majority are just cruising. They're not there to do the right thing. It's a job where they're perfect example. When I got hired, everybody wanted to go to patrol because that's where everything really starts. That's where the rest of your career opens up. Now they're saying 85 to 90% of custody deputies don't want to go to patrol. They're happy working that environment the rest of their career, which I can't wrap my head around.
Yeah.
Somebody's still got to do it. I'm glad they're doing it because I don't want to do it. They'll make me go do it.
Right.
Which somebody's got to do it.
Yeah. It feels like law enforcement kind of should be like a calling, not a job that you kind of just do to get a pension at the end of the rainbow.
It seems like it's gone from hiring very type A personalities, military, athletes, people who are very driven to they just kind of put the car in neutral and let it coast. It's just kind of rolling down the street and nobody's got their foot on the gas. If that makes any sense.
No, we could go into a whole lot of political reasons why I think that's happening, but maybe we'll save that for another day. We'll save that till after you retire.
Yeah.
We'll have another conversation 2 days after you retire.
All right.
But that's alarming. So yeah, we'll dig into that another time. But favorite movie and why? Or maybe we got to do like a dozen.
Oh, I could go through a ton of them. Probably going to be Spies Like Us. Doctor. You went right to it.
Yeah.
Doctor.
Oh, it's amazing.
But then there's so many good ones that have come out since. I love all movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I hope I pass that gift on to my kids with all the different movie lines. And
I made somebody rewatch the operation scene because I was trying to describe it and you can't. It's like, we will now shave the patient. I rewatched that movie a couple of years ago. I'm like, oh yeah, this one still stands up. Where there's some of those 80s comedies. I watched something, The Great Outdoors with John Candy,
Love it.
Which I also loved don't rewatch it. It does not hold up so well. Like the corny jokes are still kind of laughable, but there's some 80s comedy movies from that SNL crowd and whatever the SNL equivalent is in Canada that they don't quite hit the same comedy bone that it did when I was a 15-year-old boy.
I still like that one. But we also I raised all my kids at Bass Lake. That's where that was filmed.
Oh, okay.
So like, I think the Bass Lake itself has a special spot in that movie's film there. So all those Trading Places. There's another. Yeah. I like I like a lot of movies.
I love it. Spies Like Us. First time anybody's mentioned Spies Like Us, so you're a winner on that. Hey, Casey, thanks for coming in, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming up here to do this interview. And for anybody that's listening, buy the book, Treading Water. And I'm excited to have you on and talk about a little bit more of this stuff after you retire.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right.